Chapter 252, Meeting a Friend. Jiang Peihuan ordered them, tie her up and throw her directly into the carriage and escort her to the Qing mansion's residence. Yes. Queen Cheng. The two of them did not hesitate at Jiang Peihuan's order. They walked directly towards Shui Yu. Your Highness, save me. Shui Yu quickly looked at Xiao Juanhao. Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with unsightly expressions as he looked at the soldiers walking towards them. He looked at Jiang Peihuan coldly. Miss Jiang, aren't you looking down on me? Miss Shui is now a member of the Qing mansion. Since they are people from the Qing mansion, I will trouble the Prince Qing to take them away. Don't dirty the general's floor. Jiang Peihuan, you. Before Xiao Juanhao could say anything, Shui's eyes were filled with anger. Once she saw Xiao Nanye's gloomy eyes and instantly shut her mouth. Let's go back to the mansion. Xiao Juanhao looked at the people beside him and said. He got into the carriage without looking at Shui Yu. The wound on his arm had not been bandaged yet. Your Highness, please wait for me. Shui Yu hurriedly followed him into the carriage. Soon, the people from the Qing mansion left with Shui Yu. At this time, Jiang Peihuan noticed that old Madame Shui's expression was also very bad. Mother, why don't you let grandmother stay in your Yanglin tonight? Jiang Peihuan said softly to Shui Yang. Millimeter, I'll arrange it. You and King Cheng can go back. After Jiang Peihuan bowed to old Madame Shui and Shui Yang, she took Xiao Nanye back to her plum garden. When Jiang Peihuan was about to enter the house, Xiao Nanye held her hand. Facing Jiang Peihuan's puzzled expression, the man said softly, I'll take you to a place. Xiao Nanye hugged Jiang Peihuan's waist and jumped over the wall. Zui Yun also ran over. Xiao Nanye carried Jiang Peihuan and got on Zui Yun. Xiao Nanye helped put on the cape for Jiang Huan and pulled her into his arms. When the horse started running, the wind messed up Jiang Peihuan's hair. However, she was wearing a hat and leaning against Xiao Nanye, so she didn't feel cold. The horse went straight into the city and finally stopped at the entrance of a relatively elegant house. After Xiao Nanye dismounted, he carried Jiang Peihuan off the horse. At this moment, the door of the house was opened. Your Highness. Everyone listen. King Cheng is here. Is Chu Heng here? Young Master is in the courtyard. By the way, young Master Rong is here too. Okay, I'll go over and take a look. The person who opened the door was a child. When he heard this, he bowed to Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan had never known about this place. From the moment she walked into the house, Jiang Peihuan was attracted by the exquisiteness in front of her. There was no difference between this house and an ordinary house outside, but the interior was decorated in a very elegantly way. After walking past the stream on the river at the entrance, Jiang Peihuan saw a pavilion surrounded by flowers. At the moment, two young men were sitting in the pavilion. One of them had an elegant figure and exuded a scholarly aura. Another one had a devilish look, but his appearance was very exquisite, even more beautiful than a woman. The two of them turned around together. When she saw Jiang Peihuan beside Xiao Nanye, both of them were surprised. The evil-looking man winked at Jiang Peihuan when she walked into the pavilion. Do you believe that 111 dig out your eyes and soak them in wine? Xiao Nanye, who was walking beside Jiang Peihuan, saw Chu Heng's actions and said coldly. Upon hearing this, the evil-looking Chu Heng said speechlessly, Don't tell me you brought Huan out on this trip. Before Chu Heng could finish his sentence, he felt a chill on his neck. He quickly dodged and saw a chopstick stuck in a pillar at his side. If he hadn't reacted quickly, the chopsticks would have pierced his neck. Who gave you permission to call her Huan? Rong Mo, look at him. He has a beautiful woman and doesn't want us anymore. The other elegant man, Rong Mo, ignored Chu Heng. He only nodded politely at Jiang Peihuan, Miss Jiang. Seeing his actions, Jiang Peihuan bowed slightly. Young Master Rong. Miss Jiang, do you know me? Hearing the way Jiang Peihuan addressed him, Rong Mo was a little surprised. Jiang Peihuan smiled and then bowed to Chu Heng. Young Master Chu. Huan how did you know their identities? Even Xiao Nanye was surprised. After Xiao Nanye sat down on a chair in the pavilion, Jiang Peihuan smiled softly and said, "Not only do I know the identities of Rong Mo and Chu Heng, I also know that the largest Yang Chun brothel in the Jingdo is Rong Mo's property." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Rong Mo and Chu Heng subconsciously looked at Xiao Nanya. Xiao Nanya said in a low voice, "I didn't say anything." "You didn't say anything. How would she know?" Chu Heng's eyes were filled with doubt. Rong Mo looked directly at Jiang Peihuan and asked, "Miss Jiang, can you help me clear my doubts? I once saw young Master Rong at the Yang Chun brothel." The real reason was that Jiang Peihuan had learned about Rong Mo and Chu Heng's identities and information from Xiao Juanhao in her previous life. Xiao Juanhao wanted to win Xiao Nanya over. The Rong family was a scholarly family. The academy that Jiang Songbai was studying in was opened by the Rong family, and Rong Mo was the legitimate son of the Rong family. In her previous life, Jiang Peihuan was shocked when she found out that the Yang Chun brothel was his property. As for Chu Heng, he was the youngest son of the Chu family. This Chu family was the mother's family of Huainan Princess Chu Ru. However, Huainan Princess came from the main branch. According to seniority, Chu Heng had to call Huainan Princess as his auntie. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Rong Mo didn't say anything else, indicating that he had accepted the answer. However, Xiao Nanya felt that this wasn't the real answer. However, Jiang Peihuan had a lot of secrets, but if she didn't want to tell him, Xiao Nanya wouldn't ask. However, when Chu Heng heard this, he immediately asked, "Why would a lady like you go to Yang Chun brothel?" Yang Chun brothel was the largest brothel in the capital, so Chu Heng's eyes were filled with doubt and curiosity. Rong Mo was speechless when he said it. Xiao Nanya glanced coldly at Chu Heng, but the latter did not notice at all. He only looked at Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan smiled and said, "If I say I'm curious, would young Master Chu believe me?" Chapter 253, Cheng Yang Curious. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Chu Heng's eyes were filled with suspicion, but Jiang Peihuan did not say anything else. The reason why she had entered the brothel was indeed out of curiosity. At that time, she was still obsessed with Xiao Juanhao, but he was sometimes cold and sometimes gentle to her. She wanted to capture Xiao Junhao's heart. She heard that the women in the Yang Chun brothel were very good at making men happy. She also had the idea and went to the Yang Chun brothel. Jiang Peihuan felt that there was something wrong with her brain. "Alright, why do you have so many questions?" Xiao Nanya looked coldly at Chu Heng. The latter silently shut his mouth. "Young master, the pot is ready. Do you want to serve it?" At this moment, a child walked up to Chu Heng and asked softly, "Bring it up and bring me my wine." A moment later, Jiang Peihuan saw that the table in front of her was filled with all kinds of dishes. The vines woven on the pavilion were all fresh flowers. Jiang Peihuan could even smell the faint fragrance of flowers. On such a winter day, she could actually see flowers blooming. Jiang Peihuan's eyes also revealed some surprise. However, the other three people at the table were very calm. "Go prepare some tea." Xiao Nanya ordered the servant. "Why are you drinking tea in this weather? It's so refreshing to drink wine." Chu Heng asked. Xiao Nanya couldn't be bothered to look at him. Jiang Peihuan reached out and grabbed the man's sleeve. When she met Xiao Nanya's eyes, she said softly, "It's okay. One want to have a drink too." Hearing this, Xiao Nanya didn't say anything. Miss Jiang, Chu Heng and one have been good friends with Nanya for many years. Since you are his unwed wife, you are not an outsider. These words were said by Rong Mo. Although he had a refined temperament, Jiang Peihuan knew that he was not as easy to talk to as he looked from the coldness in his eyes. However, when he spoke to Jiang Peihuan, Rong Mo's expression was icy cold but very sincere. Therefore, when she heard this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed a smile. The few of them were eating and drinking. To be precise, only Chu Heng and Jiang Peihuan were eating. Rong Mo and Xiao Nanya rarely touched their chopsticks. The two of them kept talking about the situation in front of them. Jiang Peihuan listened quietly but did not make any comments. When Jiang Peihuan was drinking, she found that the taste of the wine was actually very good. Xiao Nanya pressed the back of her hand. You've already drunk a lot. You can't drink anymore, he insisted. I won't get drunk, and this wine tastes good. You have good taste. This wine was personally brewed by Rong Mo. Perhaps it was because Jiang Peihuan was very straightforward and did not have the cumbersome nature of ordinary women, but Chu Heng's attitude towards Jiang Peihuan was much better than before. Hearing Chu Heng's words, Jiang Peihuan subconsciously looked at Rong Mo. Miss Jiang, if you like this wine, 111 get Nanya to send you some later. Jiang Peihuan really liked the taste of the wine, so she nodded her head. Thank you, young Master Rong. Miss, please leave. Young Master won't see you. Rong Mo. As soon as Jiang Peihuan's voice fell, she heard a shout at the door. The voice was very gentle, and it was a woman's voice. The child at the door was clearly in a difficult position, but he did not dare to really reach out to stop the woman, so the woman stumbled to the pavilion. The woman obviously did not expect that there would be other people in the pavilion. However, after a short while, she looked at Rong Mo with tears in her eyes. Rong Mo, are you really going to be so heartless to me? Cheng Yang, you are too greedy. Rong Mo has already helped your family enough. Chu Heng, who was sitting at the side, spoke up. He looked at the woman with a very annoyed expression. However, Cheng Yang completely ignored Chu Heng, as if she hadn't heard him at all. Her eyes fell directly on Rong Mo. Jiang Peihuan noticed that Rong Mo's expression did not change at all. Rong Mo's expression was very calm when faced with Cheng Yang's question. He looked at Cheng Yang as if he was looking at a stranger. Rong Mo, you promised my brother. Have you forgotten? I did promise that your brother would take care of the Cheng family, so I've already settled the Cheng family. What else do you want me to do? HJH, you promised my brother that you would take good care of me. Aren't you full and warm now? Rong Mo spoke up immediately after Cheng Yang finished her sentence. His words seemed to have provoked Cheng Yang. Hearing Rong Mo's words, she shouted hoarsely, food and clothes were not what one want. Then what do you want? Before Cheng Yang could finish, Rong Mo interrupted her. Cheng Yang's eyes revealed a hint of embarrassment, but she still said in a low voice, I want to stay by your side. Then, do you want to be my maid? You actually want me to be a maid? Rong Mo's words made Cheng Yang's eyes widen. When Rong Mo heard this, he seemed to be very puzzled. Didn't you say that you wanted to stay by my side? Wasn't that the same as wanting to be the servant girl? Rong Mo, you know what I mean. One want to stay by your side, so one naturally want to be your family. My family? You want to be my concubine? Jiang Peihuan, who was sitting quietly beside Xiao Nanya, almost laughed out loud when she heard Rong Mo's words. Although she didn't know who this Cheng Yang was, she could tell that this girl wasn't a simple person. In the beginning, she had been worried that Rong Mo would be at a disadvantage. Now, it seemed that she had underestimated this young Master Rong. That was true. How could a person who could create a business like the Yang Chun brothel be a simple person? When Cheng Yang heard the word concubine, she seemed to have been greatly insulted. Her eyes were filled with anger as she shouted at Rong Mo, "I'm the young lady of the Cheng family. How can you make me a concubine? Don't tell me you still want to be my primary wife." Cheng Yang didn't say anything, she obviously had this thought. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Rong Mo suddenly let out a chuckle. However, Jiang Peihuan, who was sitting next to Xiao Nanya, could sense a hint of mockery in his smile. Chapter 254, Find Jiang Peihuan as expected. For Cheng Song's sake, I've settled down the Cheng family and left enough money for you. As long as you don't squander recklessly, that money is enough for you to live in peace. This wasn't enough. Cheng Yang, my primary wife, is destined to be the matron of the Rong family in the future. Do you think you're qualified? When Rong Mo said this, there was no mockery or expression in his eyes. However, Cheng Yang was shocked when he heard this. Cheng Yang, I'm friends with Cheng Song. For his sake, 111 take care of the Cheng family. But that's all. After all, one don't owe the Cheng family anything. To be honest, everything the Cheng family eats and drinks is my money. So, don't appear in front of me again. Otherwise, I'll take back everything one gave to the Cheng family. Rong Mo's voice wasn't loud, but his expression was very serious. You promised my brother that you would take care of me and the Cheng family. Don't you feel sorry for my brother by doing this? I'm not the one who's sorry to Cheng Song, it's you. Cheng Song is dead, but you're not. Why can't you support the Cheng family? I'm just a woman. How can one support the Cheng family? Let's just say that it's Miss Jiang who's beside you. With a change of scenery, Rong Mo's gaze fell on Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan did not expect the topic to shift to her. Miss Jiang is also a woman, but she was able to follow her father to war when she was young. If it were you, Cheng Yang, why couldn't you be able to do the same? You should go. I don't want to see you again. Perhaps she was hurt by Rong Mo's words, or perhaps it was for some other reason. Cheng Yang left immediately. However, when she left, she couldn't help but glance at Jiang Peihuan. After Cheng Yang left, Chu Heng looked at Rong Mo with a complicated expression. Why are you looking at me like that? Rong Mo said calmly when he saw Chu Heng's expression. Chu Heng said with a strange look in his eyes, I thought you would let her do whatever she wants. Rong Mo, who had a good temper, could not help but roll his eyes. What do you mean do whatever you want? She still does whatever she wants. You've never rejected her requests before. From now on, I'm going to reject her. As soon as Rong Mo finished speaking, everyone looked at him. Even Jiang Peihuan had a doubtful look in her eyes. Rong Mo said in a low voice, for the sake of her brother, I can take care of her for a while, but I can't take care of her forever. Cheng Yang's arrival didn't affect their mood, but after the sky gradually darkened, Xiao Nanya left Chu Heng's house with Jiang Peihuan. When she reached the door, Jiang Peihuan heard a voice coming from behind her. Nanya, wait. Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan stopped in their tracks and turned to look at Chu Heng, who was walking towards them. Xiao Nanya said calmly, what else do you want? I'm not looking for you. I'm looking for Miss Jiang. Young Master Chu, is there anything you need from me? Jiang Peihuan said softly when she heard Chu Heng's voice. Chu Heng did not speak. Instead, he took out a token from his body and handed it directly to Jiang Peihuan. When she saw the token in Chu Heng's hand, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed some surprise. Although this token looked ordinary, Jiang Peihuan knew that this was Chu Heng's command token. With this token, one could use all the property and power under his name. Young Master Chu, what do you mean by this? You and Nanya will be getting married in half a month. It's not convenient for me to attend your wedding. This token can be considered my wedding gift to you. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed some surprise. However, she did not reach out to take it, but turned to look at the man beside her. Xiao Nanya didn't say anything. Instead, he nodded. Jiang Peihuan reached out and took the token. Thank you. Don't be so polite. We're all on the same side. As she accepted his token without hesitation, Chu Heng's eyes revealed a smile. His smile made his already evil face even more charming. Jiang Peihuan quickly looked away. However, when the two of them arrived at the gate of the general's mansion, Jiang Peihuan found a figure standing at the gate. The figure looked a little familiar. When she approached, Jiang Peihuan realized that it was Cheng Yang. Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with confusion. When Cheng Yang heard the voice, she immediately walked over. Miss Jiang. Miss Cheng. Miss Jiang, I've been waiting for you. Waiting for me? The doubt in Jiang Peihuan's eyes deepened. She looked at Cheng Yang and said softly, Miss Cheng, is there anything you need from me? Yes. Miss Jiang, I want you to teach me martial arts. What did you say? Jiang Peihuan would have thought that she had heard wrongly. Cheng Yang seemed to have strengthened her conviction and her voice became much louder. She looked at Jiang Peihuan and repeated her words. I said, want Miss Jiang to teach me martial arts. Miss Cheng, may first ask why you suddenly want to learn martial arts. Besides, why do you want to learn from me? Because Rong Mo said that you are very powerful. Just because of one sentence from young Master Rong, you came to find me? Cheng Yang didn't say anything, but nodded. Jiang Peihuan suddenly didn't know what to say. If you want to learn martial arts, go find Rong Mo. Xiao Nanya spoke to her. After that, Xiao Nanya pulled Jiang Peihuan and walked inside, but Cheng Yang followed him. Cheng Yang even followed Jiang Peihuan to the plum garden. What exactly do you want to do? In the courtyard of the plum garden, Xiao Nanya looked at Cheng Yang, who was dressed in white. If it was anyone else, they would have been so scared that they didn't know what to say when they saw Xiao Nanya's expression. However, Jiang Peihuan found something strange. Cheng Yang didn't seem to be afraid of Xiao Nanya at all. Just like now, she acted as if she did not hear Xiao Nanya's words at all. She only looked at Jiang Peihuan with anticipation. Miss Jiang, please teach me. I will definitely learn well. Chapter 255, You Can't Even Enter the Qing Mansion. Miss Cheng, learning martial arts isn't something that can be achieved overnight. Moreover, it's best to start learning martial arts when you're young. Is there no other way? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Cheng Yang's eyes revealed a trace of disappointment. Jiang Peihuan did not speak, she just smiled and looked at Cheng Yang. Suddenly, Cheng Yang's eyes lit up. She looked at Jiang Peihuan and said excitedly, "Then can one learn medicine from you? How did Atis Cheng know that I know medicine?" Hearing Cheng Yang's words, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed a bit of surprise. Cheng Yang pointed at Jiang Peihuan and said softly, "One smell the fragrance of medicine on your body." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan subconsciously smelled her sleeve. There was indeed a medicinal fragrance, but the smell was very faint. If one did not smell it carefully, one would not be able to smell it at all. Cheng Yang was still looking at Jiang Peihuan expectantly. However, when she thought of Cheng Yang's special identity, Jiang Peihuan didn't know how to deal with it. She directly looked at Xiao Nanya beside her. The man did not say anything and went forward. What are you doing?" Seeing Xiao Nanya walking towards her, Cheng Yang's eyes were filled with vigilance. Then, she fell to the ground. Jiang Peihuan, who saw this scene, was stunned. Looking at the man beside her, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but ask, "Why did you knock her out?" "This is the simplest way. You can't get through to her." After saying that, Xiao Nanya glanced at the tree. Then, Han Feng flew down. "Master, send her to Rong Mo." "Yes." Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Han Feng picked Cheng Yang up from the ground and left the plum garden. "Aren't you going back?" After Han Feng left, Xiao Nanya followed Jiang Peihuan into the room. Looking at the sky outside, Jiang Peihuan could not help but look at the man beside her. At this moment, I just hope that time can pass faster." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed some doubt. Seeing the expression in her eyes, the man whispered, "So, one could be with you." When he said the last sentence, the man's eyes were full of gentleness. Seeing the expression in his eyes, Jiang Peihuan felt her cheeks burning up. Lowering her eyes, Jiang Peihuan said in a low voice, "It's getting late. I'm going to sleep. You should go back and rest early." Seeing that Jiang Peihuan's eyes were indeed filled with fatigue, Xiao Nanya did not say anything else and stood up. Just as he was thinking about what to say, he heard Jiang Peihuan's voice. "In another half a month, you won't have to travel." As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan followed Xiao Nanya to the door. The man who had walked to the door suddenly turned around. Before Jiang Peihuan could react, the man reached out and hugged her. Then, Jiang Peihuan felt a warm breath on her lips. The man's movements were very gentle. Jiang Peihuan only felt a trace of warmth on her lips. Then Xiao Nanya let go of her hand. "You don't have to send me off. It's cold outside." With that, the man left Jiang Peihuan's room and closed the door for her. Looking at the tightly shut door, Jiang Peihuan could not help but reach out to touch her lips. Her breath was still cold. Jiang Peihuan, who was lying on the bed, suddenly felt a sense of joy. But on this night, someone couldn't sleep. Qing Mansion. "Are you letting me stay here?" After Shuai Yu followed Xiao Juanhao back to Qing Mansion, she was brought into a courtyard. However, when the door was pushed open, there was an unpleasant smell. Other than that, the decorations inside were also very dilapidated. Looking at the house in front of her, Yu looked at the servant girl beside her with anger. Miss, this is master's arrangement. As servants, we can't do anything about it. Initially, when she found out that she was arranged to serve Yu, Ju was very happy. At least, she was the first female master to enter the Qing mansion's residence. Ju was completely disappointed after meeting her. Such a woman had no hope in the mansion. Impregnant with his child. Where's His Highness? One want to see him. Ju already ugly expression became even uglier. Miss, His Highness is busy every day. How can you see him whenever you want? You bastard, how dare you talk to me like that? Miss, one advise you to behave yourself. Before Yu could react, Ju shook her off. If it wasn't for Yu's quick reaction, she would have fallen to the ground. Yu's eyes still revealed a gloomy expression as she glared fiercely at Ju Yu's eyes were gloomy as she said, Bitch, do you believe that one will make you disappear? If master wanted to kill me, one would naturally accept it. But miss, you are not my master. After saying this, Ju left. Yu clenched her fists tightly as she watched her leave. What she didn't know was that Xiao Juanhao had heard everything very quickly. In the main hall, Lin Mengyaro was carefully bandaging Xiao Junhao's wound. It was the same wound that Xiao Nanya had caused in the general's mansion. Pei Wu was reporting what had happened to Yu to Xiao Juanhao. Xiao Junhao's eyes revealed a hint of mockery. Your Highness, why don't you send 2 maids with better attitude to serve Miss Xue? After all, she is still pregnant with your child. If the Xue family really gave up on her, the child in her belly would be meaningless. Xiao Juanhao said calmly. Lin Mengyaro didn't say anything else. After leaving the main hall, she didn't go back to her courtyard but went straight to Yu's place. Bitch, do you still know how to turn back, LTSU? Yu cursed when she heard the sound of footsteps, but when she saw the person who came in, she was stunned. Lin Mengyaro walked into the room and sat down on a chair. After she reached out to straighten her skirt, she looked at Yu and said, Miss Xue, do you know that if you weren't the daughter of the Xue family, you wouldn't even be able to enter the Qing mansions? Chapter 256. Yu returns to the general's mansion. What nonsense are you talking about? Yu's eyes were filled with anger when she heard Lin Mengyao's words, but she still suppressed her anger when she thought of her current situation. However, when Lin Mengyaro heard this, a smile appeared in her eyes. Am I wrong? Miss Xue, do you really think that His Highness wants to be with you again because he likes you? Naturally. Yu subconsciously wanted to open her mouth. Not long ago, she thought so, but after today's incident, she began to doubt her own thoughts. After a moment of silence, Yu looked at Lin Mengyao. What do you want from me? It's very simple. I want to help Miss Xue. Help me. Yu's eyes were filled with doubt when she heard Lin Mengyao's words. Although she wasn't smart, she wasn't stupid enough to believe that Mengyaro would help her. Lin Mengyaro looked at Yu's expression and said, whether you believe it or not, I came here today to help you. Then tell me how you want to help me. If I were Miss Xue, I would go directly to the general's mansion at this moment. Yu's eyes were filled with disapproval when Lin Mengyaro said that. Although the Xue family doesn't recognize you anymore, you are still the daughter of the Xue family. As long as you go to the general's mansion, no one can do anything to you or chase you out. Yu's eyes were filled with curiosity. She looked at Lin Mengyaro and asked subconsciously, and then? Leave the rest to me, Miss Xue. Why are you helping me? No matter what, you already have His Highness' child in your stomach, and one will also marry into the Qing mansion in the future. One think you should know that in another half a month, the main consort will enter the prince's mansion, right? Yu naturally knew about this. She also knew that the main consort and the side consort were married on the same day. Seeing Yu nod, Lin Mengyaro continued, after the main consort enters the residence, one hope that Miss Xue and one can be on the same side. Yu fell silent after hearing Lin Mengyao's words. After a long while, she nodded. Okay. With Lin Mengyao's interference, Shuai Yu changed her residence that night. Xiao Juanhao didn't say anything about what had happened in the backyard. Jiang Peihuan did not know about these matters in the Qing mansion. At this moment, she was looking at Cheng Yang, who was standing in the courtyard, with a headache. Cheng Yang was wearing a white cloak, but it was already covered in snow. Cheng Yang had been knocked unconscious by Han Feng and sent to Rong Mo's place. However, after she woke up, she went straight to the general's mansion. At this time, Xiao Nanya was not around, so Jiang Peihuan naturally could not do something like knocking Cheng Yang out. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan opened the door. "Are you willing to teach me medicinal skill?" Cheng Yang was trembling all over, but when she saw the door open, she still looked up at Jiang Peihuan. "Come in first." After saying that, Jiang Peihuan went straight to the main hall next door. Jiang Peihuan looked at Cheng Yang and said, "Sit down and talk." After she sat down, Jiang Peihuan poured Cheng Yang a glass of water. Cheng Yang was already freezing. Seeing the tea in front of her, she thanked her softly and immediately picked up the teacup. After drinking a cup of tea, Cheng Yang felt that she had come back to life. Jiang Peihuan did not make a sound. After seeing Cheng Yang's face return to normal, she looked at Cheng Yang and said, "Have you thought it through and decided to learn medicine?" "Yes, I've already thought it through." "All right, 111 teach you." "Really?" Now that she heard her words, her eyes were filled with surprise. Jiang Peihuan did not speak but nodded. Cheng Yang whispered, "Aren't you going to ask me why I want to learn medicine?" "That's not important. What's important is that since you've already decided, one hope you won't give up so easily. Don't worry, I'll definitely study hard." Cheng Yang suddenly knelt down in front of Jiang Peihuan. Before she could react, Cheng Yang had already bowed to her 3 times. "What are you doing?" Jiang Peihuan was stunned. Cheng Yang smiled and said, "You're my teacher now. I naturally have to pay my respect to you." Jiang Peihuan was speechless. Jiang Peihuan had never come into contact with someone with such a strange personality as Cheng Yang. "Master, when will you start teaching me medicine?" "Don't call me master. Then I'll call you Huan Er." As soon as Jiang Peihuan finished speaking, Cheng Yang spoke directly. "Huan Er, when will you start teaching me medicine?" Jiang Peihuan asked herself that she was not that familiar with Cheng Yang, but seeing the smile in her eyes, she did not say anything. Jiang Peihuan put a few medical books in front of Cheng Yang and said softly, "Before you study medical books, you should read these books first." "All right. Then I'll go back first." Reaching out to pick up the medical book on the table, Cheng Yang left Jiang Peihuan's plum garden. In the heavy snow, her figure was a little thin, but she walked very firmly. Look at her small body figure, Jiang Peihuan's eyes had a bit of complexity. "Eldest miss, your cousin is here." Just as Cheng Yang left, Lu Er walked up to Jiang Peihuan. Hearing her words, the first thing Jiang Peihuan thought of was Shuai Yu. "Where is she?" "In Madame's courtyard." Jiang Peihuan did not say anything and walked directly in the direction of Yanglin. When Jiang Peihuan walked into the main hall, she saw Shui Yang getting someone to prepare supplements for Shuai Yu. It seemed that she was prepared to let Shuai Yu stay. Jiang Peihuan's eyes flashed, but she did not say anything. Instead, she stepped forward and bowed to Shui Yang. "Mother! Huan Er, why are you here on such a snowy day?" "I heard that cousin is here, so I specially came to take a look." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Shui Yang nodded and then said softly, "Your cousin already knows her mistake. It's just that your grandmother is currently in a fit of anger, so one let her stay in our residence for a few days. After a few days, when your grandmother's anger has subsided, we will settle your cousin's matter." Has cousin dispelled the idea of marrying into the Qing mansion? After a moment of silence, Jiang Peihuan opened her mouth. Chapter 257, Shuai Yu makes her move. When Jiang Peihuan spoke, she was addressing Shui Yang, but her gaze was always on Shuai Yu. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Shui Yang also looked at Shuai Yu. Meeting the expressions of Shui Yang and her daughter, Thinking of what Lin Mengyaro had said, Shueru's eyes reddened, nodding, I know I was wrong. If grandmother doesn't agree, I will never bring up the matter of marrying into the Prince Qing mansion again. In that case, we should inform maternal grandmother so she won't be worried. After looking at Shueru, Jiang Peihuan turned to Shueyang. But before Shueyang could speak, Shueru interrupted, let's not inform grandmother yet. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's puzzled look, Shueru whispered, I was foolish before and upset grandmother. I'll apologize to her in a few days when she has calmed down. Then well, do as you wish. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan said nothing more. Mother, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to my courtyard. All right. Watching Shueyang nod, Jiang Peihuan stood up. As she was about to exit, she heard Shueru's voice, Cousin Huan. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan stopped in her tracks, turned to look at Shueru, and softly inquired, Cousin Yu, is there something else? Cousin Huan, can I stay in your courtyard? You want to stay in my courtyard, Cousin Yu? Shueyang, sitting in the main seat, flashed a hint of confusion at Shueru's request. Facing Shueyang, Shueru softly said, Aunt, I'm a little scared. I'm only familiar with Huan in this mansion, so I hope to have her company. This. Hearing Shueru's words, Shueyang was somewhat conflicted. After all, it was her niece, and it was hard to refuse outright. However, she also didn't want to impose on her daughter, so she looked at Jiang Peihuan. Huan, what do you think? Mother, let Cousin Yu stay in my courtyard. Cousin Huan, thank you. It's no problem. I'll have someone prepare a room for you. Hearing Shueru, Jiang Peihuan responded calmly. However, Shueru quickly added, I want a room close to yours. If Cousin Yu wants to stay close to me, it's fine, but Xiaobai is always in my room. I'm afraid if you're too close, it might bite you. Then. I better stay a bit further, but not too far. Thinking of Xiaobai, Shueru felt a pang in her leg, even though her wound had already healed. Subsequently, Shueru followed Jiang Peihuan to the plum garden. When Lu saw Shueru, her eyes widened in surprise. Only after Shueru and Jiang Peihuan had gone. She tugged on Yu's hand. Why is she here? Do your job and mind your own business, Yu responded coldly. By this time, Jiang Peihuan had already shown Shueru to a room in the plum garden, located in the opposite direction from her own. Opening the door, Jiang Peihuan said, Cousin Yu, you can stay here. Okay. Shueru looked around the tidy room and nodded in approval. Yu, find 2 obedient maids to serve Cousin Yu. Yes, eldest miss. Cousin Yu, if you need anything in the next few days, just let me know. Millimeter. Cousin Huan, thank you so much. You're too kind, Cousin Yu. Yi Xiao. Eldest miss. As soon as Jiang Peihuan's voice fell, Yi Xiao appeared before her. Looking at Yi Xiao, Jiang Peihuan whispered, keep an eye on Cousin Yu for the next few days. Yes. Regarding Shueru's arrival, Jiang Peihuan always felt something was amiss. However, Shueru was from the Shui family, and Jiang Peihuan couldn't directly do anything, so she could only have someone secretly keep an eye on her. At this time, Shueru was closing the windows and doors of her room. Only when the room was completely empty did she open the note in her palm, which was given to her by a maid just a while ago. Seeing the contents of the note, a trace of conflict flashed in Shueru's eyes, but she finally made up her mind. At the same moment in the Prince Qing's mansion, Lin Mengyaro was talking to Xiao Juanhao about Shueru. Your Highness, the message has been delivered to Miss Shui. As long as she places the item in Jiang Hong's study, he will certainly be punished by the Emperor. Your Highness, Jiang Hong doesn't want to side with you. In that case, he should be removed. Once Jiang Hong falls, Jiang Peihuan will be just like her and not the miss of the general's mansion as she is now. Especially given that her own father was exiled to the northern border. Don't worry. I will take care of the matter regarding your father. After a moment of silence, Xiao Juanhao looked at Lin Mengyaro and whispered. Hearing this, gratitude spread across Lin Mengyao's face, though her eyes remained unchanged. Thank you, Your Highness. Shueru's sudden return to the general's mansion didn't alarm anyone, But the head of the Jiang family knew about it. Due to Shui Yang's relationship, no one said anything. For the first few days, Shui Yu was very calm. But on the evening of the fourth day, under the pretext of taking a walk, she went to Yanglin. At this time, Shui Yang was not in Yanglin. Yi Xiao, who had been secretly watching Shui Yu, immediately went to Jiang Peihuan's room after seeing Shui Yu leaving Jiang Hong's study. "You said she went to my father's study?" "Yes." Seeing Yi Xiao nodding, Jiang Peihuan immediately said, "Let's go to my father's study. Eldest miss, should we inform the first madam and the great general about this?" "No need." After a brief silence, Jiang Peihuan shook her head. Seeing this, Yi Xiao didn't say more and followed Jiang Peihuan to Jiang Hong's study. Jiang Peihuan frequently entered and left Jiang Hong's study, so her visit didn't attract anyone's attention. After entering the study, Jiang Peihuan began to search carefully. Eventually, she found a letter tucked between the pages of a book. Opening the envelope and seeing its contents, Jiang Peihuan's eyes darkened. The letter contained correspondence between Jiang Hong and those in the northern border. Jiang Hong had already handed over his military seal. If this letter fell into the hands of someone with ulterior motives, Jiang Hong would definitely be suspected by Emperor Qiming. He might even be punished. Holding the envelope in her hand, Jiang Peihuan looked upset. After a long time, Jiang Peihuan gestured to Yi Xiao, who approached, and Jiang Peihuan whispered a few words in her ear. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Yi Xiao nodded. "Don't worry, eldest miss. I will go and speak to His Highness immediately." Chapter 258. The general's mansion is surrounded. After speaking, Yi Xiao left Jiang Hong's study. Jiang Peihuan stuffed the envelope into her sleeve and left shortly after. But upon entering her own plum garden, Jiang Peihuan gave a cold glance at Shui Ru's room. At this moment, Shui Yu was still unaware that her actions had been discovered by Jiang Peihuan. She was pacing back and forth in her room, her eyes full of excitement. She had already sent out the message. Now, she was eagerly awaiting the arrival of Prince Qing. As night deepened, due to a sudden whim of old Madame Jiang, the main members of the Jiang family dined together in the Chrysanthemum Hall. Even Shui Yu sat at the table. "It's getting late. You all should go back and rest," said the old madam, looking at everyone. Jiang Hong, being the eldest, was about to speak when he saw Deputy General Liu rushing in. "Great General, our mansion is surrounded." "What did you say?" Hearing Deputy General Liu's words, even the usually composed Jiang Hong's face changed slightly. "Soldiers are everywhere outside, surrounding our entire mansion." "How many of them? Who's leading?" "About 1,000 soldiers. Prince Qing is leading." Hearing this, Jiang Hong instinctively looked at Shui Yu, and so did the rest of the Jiang family. Is Prince Qing here for you?" Everyone thought Prince Xiao Juanhao came for Shui Yu, even Shui Yang thought so, hence she directly asked Shui Yu. But Shui Yu shook her head. "Aunt, I don't know." As Shui Ru's words fell, Xiao Junhao's voice came from outside. "Great General, I received a confidential report claiming you are still in contact with the northern border." Dressed in black with his long hair tied up, Xiao Junhao's appearance stirred emotions in Shui Ru's eyes. However, he turned his gaze to Jiang Peihuan. He expected to see panic and fear in her eyes, but she only showed indifference. When Xiao Junhao finished speaking, Jiang Peihuan stepped forward, defending her family. "Your Highness, one should provide evidence when making accusations. My father has always been loyal to the Emperor. If you claim has been in touch with the northern border, where's your proof?" "Evidence will surface when sought," Xiao Junhao retorted. "Search the place." Upon uttering these words, Xiao Junhao motioned to Pei Wu. At Xiao Junhao's command, Pei Wu began to move towards Yang Lin. However, a chilling gust swept past him, prompting him to dodge on instinct. He turned to see Jiang Peihuan standing there, a black whip gripped firmly in her hand, now squarely between him and his destination. She leveled the whip at Pei Wu and said icily, "This is my mother's courtyard. Anyone who dares take a step forward will answer to me. Miss Jiang, I'm merely following orders. Kindly move aside. It seemed like Jiang Peihuan didn't hear Pei Wu at all and remained still. Seeing this, Pei Wu, feeling a bit embarrassed, drew his sword. If that's the case, I apologize in advance. As he spoke, Pei Wu lunged at Jiang Peihuan with his sword. But before it could reach her, the sword was deflected by someone. It was Jiang Hong. How dare you harm my daughter in front of me? Do you think I, Jiang Hong, am dead? Great General, are you unwilling to let my men in because you have something to hide? At this time, Xiao Juanhao also approached the entrance of Yang Lin. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Jiang Hong replied with a gloomy look, Prince Qing, although you are a prince, you don't have the right to search my residence. And if it's by my order? A flash of light appeared, and then the figure of Emperor Qiming appeared in front of everyone. Seeing Emperor Qiming, everyone knelt down and greeted, Your Majesty. Emperor Qiming approached Jiang Hong and looked at the kneeling crowd. His eyes were full of complexity. Remembering what Xiao Juanhao told him, Emperor Qiming finally turned to Jiang Hong and said, Jiang Hong, I have heard that you still have connections with the north border. Is this true? Your Majesty, ever since I handed over my military seal, I have had no dealings with the north border. In that case, let Prince Qing search. As soon as Jiang Hong finished speaking, Emperor Qiming ordered directly. Hearing this, there was a hint of surprise in Jiang Hong's eyes, followed by a hint of pain. After a moment, he lowered his head and replied, Your servant obeys. And with that, Jiang Hong stepped aside. Wait. Just as Pei Wu was about to lead his men inside, he saw Jiang Peihuan kneel before Emperor Qiming. Jiang Peihuan, you dare to defy my order? Facing Jiang Peihuan kneeling before him, Emperor Qiming said coldly, Your servant would never defy Your Majesty's command. Then why aren't you stepping aside? Your Majesty, you ordered a search of the general's mansion. No one in the mansion dares to defy your order. However, if outsiders hear of this, it might harm my father's reputation. If my father really did something that betrayed Your Majesty, he naturally deserves to be punished. However, my father has always been loyal to Your Majesty. I dare ask, if nothing is found in my father's courtyard today, how will Your Majesty treat this matter? Towards the end, Jiang Peihuan looked directly into Emperor Qiming's eyes. Initially, Emperor Qiming showed some anger at Jiang Peihuan's questioning, but after seeing the look in her eyes, his anger subsided. After a long pause, he said, If your father is falsely accused, one will stand by your father's side, no matter who speaks ill of him in my presence. And, I will severely punish the one who gave me this information. I believe in Your Majesty, said Jiang Peihuan as she stepped aside. Subsequently, Pei Wu led his men into the courtyard. Suddenly, the sound of rummaging could be heard. Hearing this, everyone in the general's mansion turned pale. Only Jiang Peihuan remained calm. However, when her gaze fell on Shui Yu, it was filled with undisguised murderous intent. For the sake of old Madame Shui and Shui Yang, Jiang Peihuan could overlook Shui's schemes against her. However, this time Shui Yu attempted to ruin the entire Jiang family, and Jiang Peihuan could no longer forgive her. Half an hour passed with no news. An hour passed, still no news. As no one came out, Xiao Juanhao looked increasingly uneasy. Finally, Pei Wu came out with his men. Seeing them, Xiao Juanhao showed a hint of a smile. However, Pei Wu's words made Xiao Junhao's smile disappear instantly. Your Majesty, we found nothing. After speaking, Pei Wu lowered his head. This can't be possible. Chapter 259, Punishment. Before Emperor Qiming could speak, Shui Yu spoke first. She had clearly put those letters in the study room. She had personally tucked them into the book. How could it possibly be missing? Shui's eyes were filled with anxiety, but she didn't notice that everyone from the general's mansion was looking at her. Doubt and anger were evident in the eyes of the people of the general's mansion. Only Jiang Peihuan looked at Shui Yu with a cold expression. Who are you? Hearing Xuerus' voice, Emperor Qiming's attention landed on her. Seeing Emperor Qiming in bright yellow robes, excitement filled Xuerus' eyes. She stepped forward and knelt, fervently saying, "Greetings, Your Majesty. One belonged to the Xue family. 1 a.m. carrying the child of Prince Qing." Upon hearing Xuerus' words, everyone, including Emperor Qiming, was stunned. Emperor Qiming's gaze briefly passed over Xiao Juanhao, and with a complex expression, he asked, "Prince Qing, is what she said true?" The moment Xue Yu spoke, Xiao Juanhao regretted getting involved with her. He thought she was too foolish. However, hearing the emperor's words, he had no choice but to reply, "Yes, Imperial Father, it's true that Miss Xue carries my child." "So, has the Xue family already promised their daughter to you?" "Your Majesty, our Xue family is not aware of this matter." The one speaking was Xue Yang. Xue Yang had some affection for Xue Yu, her only niece. However, today's events completely changed her perception. She was no fool, otherwise, she wouldn't have followed Jiang Hong on the battlefield for years. Seeing Xuerus' current state, Xue Yang instantly understood. After Emperor Qiming's words, Xue Yang directly spoke up, explaining the Xue family's position. She continued, "Your Majesty, my mother has said that Xue Yu has nothing to do with our family anymore." Her voice was soft, but it was filled with an endless chill. Hearing this, Emperor Qiming gave Xiao Juanhao a meaningful look and said, "You told me the general has been in contact with the northern border. I trusted you and came here personally. Now tell me, what proof do you have?" "My apologies, Imperial Father." One too was deceived. It seems Prince Qing wasn't deceived but was looking for a scapegoat. Before Xiao Juanhao could finish, someone interrupted him. Xiao Nanye quickly appeared before the crowd. Dressed in a pale moon-white robe, he had no cloak on, and despite the snowy weather, sweat was visible on his forehead. When entering the courtyard, Xiao Nanye's gaze instinctively landed on Jiang Peihuan. She looked back at him. Meeting her gaze, he nodded slightly. Seeing his nod, Jiang Peihuan sighed in relief. For some time after, Jiang Peihuan looked at Xiao Juanhao with a mocking expression. Such drama was familiar to Jiang Peihuan. In her past life, a similar event had taken place in the general's mansion, but it was Meng Yi who had hidden the letters. In this life, Meng Yi was already dead, and Jiang Peihuan thought that such an event would not happen again. But this time, it was Xue Yu. Today, Jiang Peihuan wanted Xiao Juanhao to experience the indescribable feeling of this situation. "Why are you here?" "Imperial brother, in a few days, Huan and I will be married. The general's mansion will become my in-laws' place. With such a big incident occurring here, I naturally wanted to come and see. Moreover, one came today because there's something I wanted to show you." "What is it?" "You'll know when you see it." As he spoke, Xiao Nanye pulled out a letter from his sleeve. This was the same letter that Jiang Peihuan had taken from Jiang Hong's study. Upon seeing that letter, Xiao Junhao's face instantly changed, while Xuerus' eyes were full of confusion. Outrageous. After reading the letter in his hand, Emperor Qiming's eyes were filled with gloom. He looked at Xiao Nanye and said coldly, "Where did you get this letter?" "Coincidentally, I found this letter in the Prince Qing mansion." "Qing mansion?" Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Emperor Qiming instinctively looked at Xiao Juanhao. His eyes were filled with a mix of scrutiny and suspicion. Facing Emperor Qiming's gaze, Xiao Juanhao hastily kowtowed, "Imperial Father, I am wronged. You don't even know what's inside this envelope and you are already claiming innocence. Could it be that you already know the contents of this letter?" Xiao Nanye interrupted Xiao Junhao's words again. Hearing this, Xiao Juanhao tightly clenched his fist, not daring to utter another word. After a long silence, Xiao Juanhao, with gloom in his eyes, looked at Xiao Nanye, "Imperial uncle, may first ask why you suddenly went to my Qing mansion and coincidentally found this letter?" When he said the last sentence, Xiao Junhao's eyes clearly showed suspicion. Yet facing Xiao Junhao's suspicion, Xiao Nanye's expression remained calm. He directly replied, "Our weddings are on the same day. Originally, I wanted to see if you needed any assistance." But one didn't expect to find this letter on the desk in your study. This is nonsense. Xiao Juanhao almost blurted out. Taking a deep breath, he looked at Emperor Qiming and said, Imperial Father, one truly am wronged. If the letter really came from me, how could I let others find it so easily? You know very well whether you are innocent or not. Prince Qing, we will settle your matter later. But now, how do you explain falsely accusing the Jiang family based on fake information? Upon hearing Emperor Qiming's words, Xiao Junhao's eyes revealed a hint of mockery. When he relayed the news to Emperor Qiming, he clearly remembered the excitement in his beloved father's eyes. However, after a moment of silence, Xiao Juanhao kowtowed to Emperor Qiming, It's all my fault. I beg for your punishment, Imperial Father. Seeing Xiao Juanhao kneeling before him, Emperor Qiming remained silent, then turned to Jiang Hong. He stepped forward, personally helping Jiang Hong up from the ground, and then whispered, One apologize for today's unjust treatment. Your Majesty, you're being too kind. Avoiding Emperor Qiming's hand, Jiang Hong stood up directly. Seeing his movement, a hint of complexity flashed in Emperor Qiming's eyes, but he said nothing. Looking at the other members of the Jiang family, Emperor Qiming softly said, All of you, please stand up. Hearing this, the Jiang family members stood up. For falsely spreading information, Prince Qing is to be severely beaten with 30 boards and is confined to his mansion. Upon Emperor Qiming's command, Xiao Juanhao was immediately taken away by the guards. Chapter 260, Where are you miscarriage Afterward, the sound of a board striking flesh echoed into everyone's ears. My great general, do you agree with my decision this way? Only after Xiao Juanhao was taken away did Emperor Qiming turn to speak to Jiang Hong. Hearing Emperor Qiming's words, Jiang Hong lowered his head and whispered, Your Majesty is wise. In a place unseen by others, disappointment and a hint of mockery flashed in Jiang Hong's eyes. The 30 boards were quickly done. When Xiao Juanhao was brought back in, his back was covered in blood. Seeing this scene, surprise showed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. However, when she looked up, she caught Xiao Nanya winking at her. Although Xiao Juanhao was bloody all over, Jiang Peihuan didn't think it was fair. If the letter had been found in Jiang Hong's study today, it wouldn't have been a mere 30 boards. With that thought, Jiang Peihuan's gaze on Shui Yu became even colder. At this moment, seeing the blood-covered Xiao Juanhao, Shui Yu was completely bewildered. She didn't understand why Emperor Qiming, knowing Xiao Juanhao is a prince, would beat his own son so brutally for an outsider. She turned to Emperor Qiming and said, Your Majesty, the prince is your own son. How could you beat him like this? Do you have any objection to my decision? Hearing Shui's words, coldness filled Emperor Qiming's eyes. Before Shui Yu could respond, Emperor Qiming continued, Since you've already been expelled from the Shui family, you're no longer a noble lady. Considering the child in your womb, you will serve in the Qing mansion as a concubine. Concubine? Hearing Qiming Emperor's words, Shui's face turned pale instantly. She looked incredulously at Emperor Qiming, but Wang Kuan beside him already looked at her coldly and said, You should be thanking His Majesty for his grace. Unable to hold back, Shui Yu turned to Shui Yang, Aunt? But Shui Yang turned her head away. The entire Jiang family looked at Shui Yu with contempt. After all, they had seen Shui's attitude just now. Let's return to the palace. Farewell, Your Majesty. Watching Emperor Qiming turn around, everyone bowed in respect. Xiao Juanhao was also taken away by the people from Qing Mansion as Emperor Qiming had decreed his house arrest. But Shui Yu was left behind. After everyone else had left, Jiang Peihuan turned to Shui Yu, Cousin Yu, why did you harm our Jiang family? Jiang Peihuan couldn't understand why Shui Yu would do such a thing. So after Emperor Qiming and Xiao Juanhao left, she directly confronted Shui Yu. But when Shui Yu heard Jiang Peihuan's words, she feigned ignorance. I don't know what you're talking about. My maid saw you put that letter in my father's study. Don't pretend you don't know. As Jiang Peihuan spoke, The whole Jiang family turned their eyes to Shui Yu, filled with anger. Only Shui Yang had a mix of anger and confusion in her eyes. She asked Jiang Peihuan softly, Huan what do you mean when you say Yu put the letter in your father's study? Ever since cousin Yu came to our mansion, I felt something was off. So, I had Yi Xiao keep an eye on her. That letter was originally placed in my father's study by her. Hearing this, Shui Yang's face turned pale. Mother! Seeing Shui Yang sway, Jiang Peihuan rushed to support her. Seeing the worried look in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Shui Yang smiled faintly, I'm fine. Then, Shui Yang gently patted Jiang Peihuan's hand, and after letting go, she turned to Shui Yu, why did you do this? Why did I do this? You should ask her. After hearing what Shui Yang said, Shui Yu pointed straight at Jiang Peihuan. At this moment, Shui Ru's eyes no longer contained any warmth, all that remained was jealousy and malevolence. Pointing at Jiang Peihuan, Shui Yu, with eyes filled with rage, exclaimed, where am I lacking compared to her? Why does she always get the best of everything? I refuse to watch her prosper. Is this the reason you intended to destroy my family? Upon hearing Shui Ru's words, disbelief and astonishment filled Shui Yang's eyes. She couldn't fathom how, for such a reason, Shui Yu could take such drastic actions. But Shui Yang's response seemed to trigger something in Shui Yu. Turning her gaze towards Shui Yang, Shui Yu said mockingly, if not for the Shui family, how could you marry into the Jiang family? You never thought of supporting your maternal family, only taking care of your own daughter. Shui Yang was so furious she was at a loss for words. Standing by, Jiang Peihuan stepped forward, giving Shui Yu a cold glance, and then turned to Shui Yang, saying, Mother, why waste words on her? Since the emperor has decreed her to serve in the Qing mansion as a concubine, she belongs to them now. There's no need to notify grandmother, just send her straight to the Qing mansion. Jiang Peihuan, it's not your place to. Hearing Jiang Peihuan, Shui Yu was enraged. However, before she could finish, she felt a sudden, intense pain in her abdomen, followed by a warm sensation spreading. All, holding her stomach, Shui Yu fell to the ground, her eyes filled with pain. The Jiang family members present were all in shock. Yet, no one stepped forward. Seeing the blood-soaking Shui Ru's dress, Jiang Peihuan knew that the child was lost. Madam, the doctor is here. Despite the resentment, Shui Yang still had someone fetch a doctor for Shui Yu. After examining Shui Yu, the doctor shook his head, saying, Madam Jiang, this lady's child can't be saved. Upon hearing this, Shui Yu fainted. After Deputy General Liu sent the doctor away, Jiang Peihuan turned to Shui Yang, asking, Mother, should we inform grandmother? I'll handle it. Take His Highness to your courtyard. You should stay out of this matter. Seeing Xiao Nanye, who was standing quietly next to Jiang Peihuan, Shui Yang's expression softened a bit. Patting Jiang Peihuan's hand, Shui Yang gently spoke. After that, Jiang Peihuan led Xiao Nanye to the plum garden. The two didn't go inside but sat in the pavilion. Soon, Yue brought over tea and pastries. As Jiang Peihuan reached out, Xiao Nanye, sitting opposite her, had already picked up the teapot, handing her a cup, gently saying, have some tea first. After she took it, he poured himself a cup as well. The pavilion had charcoal burning, and after drinking the warm tea, they felt a bit warmer. Looking at the man opposite her, Jiang Peihuan softly said, thank you for today. Chapter 261, Secret Talk. One never want to hear the word thank you one from you. All right. Seeing the slight frown on the man's face, Jiang Peihuan nodded and replied softly. How did you manage to place the letter in Prince Qing's study? When handing the letter to Xiao Nanye, Jiang Peihuan had only asked him to find a way to put the item inside Prince Qing's mansion. Unexpectedly, Xiao Nanye had directly placed it in Xiao Junhao's study. Sipping his tea, Xiao Nanye spoke faintly. Before I went to Prince Qing's mansion with my men, one made a prior visit. So you personally placed the letter in Prince Qing's study? Yes. Seeing him nod, a complex look appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. After a long time, Jiang Peihuan suddenly looked up at him. Xiao Nanya, why are you so good to me? Hearing this, the man was taken aback. Setting down his teacup, he looked into Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Their gazes met, and each saw their reflection in the other's eyes. Noticing her beautiful face, a hint of laughter emerged in his eyes. What if one said, I don't know why either, would you believe me? When he first saw her fall into the lake and rescued her, it was almost an instinctive reaction. Things that happened afterward, he found hard to control. Huan in a few days, we will be married. I've never looked forward to a day so much. At some point, the sharpness in his eyes began to soften. As the winter day turned dark, Jiang Peihuan whispered, it's getting dark, let's go inside. She then got up and left the pavilion. Watching her figure, the smile in Xiao Nanya's eyes deepened when he noticed the faint blush on her earlobes. Jiang Peihuan walked ahead, with Xiao Nanya following. With every step, he placed his footprints over hers. Even in the heavy snow, there was a touch of warmth. While the plum garden was filled with warmth, chaos had taken over Prince Qing's mansion. Xiao Juanhao was injured, and Lin Mengyaro went to his courtyard to take care of him. So when Shui Yu was sent to Prince Qing's mansion, no one attended to her, and she was directly assigned to her previous quarters. Thirst woke Shui Yu up. Lying on her bed, just after having a miscarriage, Shui Yu felt entirely weak. Water. After calling for a long time and receiving no response, just as she was about to get up, footsteps approached. A cup of water was brought to Shui Yu. Only after drinking did she feel revived. However, when she looked up and saw who had brought her the water, her expression instantly changed. Why are you here? The person who had brought water was none other than Yi Xiao. After setting the cup on the bedside table, Yi Xiao spoke, Miss Shui, it seems like the person who advised you from behind doesn't care about you now. Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Shui Yu instinctively wanted to argue but bit her lip hard instead. Seeing her silence, Yi Xiao continued, Miss Shui, you have already been granted to Prince Qing as a concubine by the emperor. If you don't seize the opportunity, you'll always be just a concubine. What are you trying to say? Looking at Yi Xiao with caution, Shui Yu asked. Do you want to marry Prince Qing and be honorably carried into his mansion, instead of just being a concubine? Do you have a way? As long as you follow my instructions, you will surely get what you wish for. Saying that, Yi Xiao moved closer and whispered a few words into Shui Ru's ear. Shui Ru's eyes widened in astonishment after hearing those words. Yi Xiao stepped back, smiling, I've given you the way. Miss Shui. Whether you take it or not is up to you. With that, Yi Xiao left Prince Qing's mansion by climbing out of the window. After Yi Xiao left, the door was abruptly pushed open. The ones who entered were the two maids previously arranged by Lin Mengyaro to take care of Shui Yu. They each held a food tray in their hands. After casually placing the food on the table, one of them coldly said, Eat up. Shui Yu glanced at the food on the table. The vegetable leaves were yellowed, and there wasn't any meat. She glared at the two maids with fury and said coldly, Is this what you're feeding me? What else do you expect? Don't forget your place. Now you're just a concubine. Moreover, the child in your womb is gone. Who do you think you are? If you don't eat, you'll starve. Having said that, the two maids packed up the food and took it away. Watching their retreating figures, Shui Yu was so angry that her whole body trembled, but she felt powerless. Outside, Yi Xiao, hearing the commotion, finally left the mansion. In the plum garden, Jiang Peihuan was playing chess with Xiao Nanya when a knock was heard. Come in. Eldest miss. Upon hearing the voice inside, Yi Xiao entered, bowed to Jiang Peihuan, and then stood up. Back already? Yes, I've conveyed the message to Miss Shui as you instructed. All right, you can go rest. Yes. After Yi Xiao left, Xiao Nanya turned to Jiang Peihuan. You sent Yi Xiao to Prince Qing Mansion? Yes. Nodding, Jiang Peihuan continued, Shui Yu isn't smart enough for this. She's just a pawn in this game. Since Shui Yu was from the Shui family, Jiang Peihuan couldn't harm or kill her. But those behind the scenes, Jiang Peihuan would never let them off. Anything outside of Jiang Peihuan's matters was of no interest to Xiao Nanya. Seeing the fatigue in her eyes, he put down his chess piece. It's getting late. You should rest. I'll head back to the mansion. Wait a moment. Seeing him stand up to leave, Jiang Peihuan quickly called out. Hearing her voice, Xiao Nanya paused. Moments later, he saw Jiang Peihuan approaching with a dark-colored cloak. She had wanted to make him another cloak after noticing he always wore the white one. She planned to give it to him in a few days, but seeing him dressed so lightly now, she decided to give it to him ahead of schedule. His eyes landed on the cloak in her hands, a smile forming in his eyes. Did you make this for me? Yes. Watching her nod, Xiao Nanya immediately took the cloak and draped it over himself, tying the strings without needing Jiang Peihuan's help. Looking down at her, he smiled. How does it look? Chapter 262. Guests. Before, when Xiao Nanya wore the white cloak, Jiang Peihuan felt that his demeanor was outstanding. But now, seeing him in the dark-colored one, Jiang Peihuan found that Xiao Nanya suited darker colors even more. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan nodded. It looks good. Xiao Nanya left the general's mansion with a smile on his face. Time flew by, and soon it was the wedding day of Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya. Perhaps it was because of their wedding, but the capital city was blessed with clear skies. Early in the morning, the entire general's mansion was bustling with activity. Contrarily, Jiang Peihuan, the bride-to-be, seemed leisurely, like nothing was amiss. Stepping out of her room, she noticed that the entire plum garden was adorned with red silk. Even Yu and Lu had changed into red dresses. The whole garden was filled with joy and festivity. Eldest miss, you're awake? When Yu turned around and saw Jiang Peihuan standing on the corridor, she quickly went forward to pay her respects. Stand up. Jiang Peihuan walked forward with Yu following her. Everywhere she looked, she saw red. Eldest miss, old Madame Shui and the others have arrived. Midway, Jiang Peihuan heard a young maid's voice. Looking up, she saw the old Madame Shui leading the way, with Shui Yang and Wang Fengyi by her side. Others followed behind them. Grandmother, mother. Seeing the elders, Jiang Peihuan quickly paid her respects. Quick, get up. Old Madame Shui helped Jiang Peihuan up. While supporting the old madam, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but ask, Grandmother, why have you come so early? How could we not? Today is your wedding day. Your mother stayed up all night. These words were spoken by Shu Yunyang. Hearing this, emotion swelled in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Looking at old Madame Shui, she whispered, Grandmother, you're getting on in years, please take care. Don't worry about me, I'm perfectly fine. Have you had breakfast yet? I was about to. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan had breakfast with everyone in Plum Garden. Just after breakfast, a maid hurriedly ran in. Madam, the eldest princess has arrived. Upon hearing the maid's announcement, Shui Yang looked puzzled. Jiang Peihuan was also somewhat perplexed, but they all promptly went outside. Today, 1 a.m. here to serve as the matchmaker for Miss Jiang. I came uninvited. I hope the Madam Jiang will forgive me. In the Qi Kingdom, during a wedding, there needs to be a matchmaker, similar to a guide. Typically, in ordinary households, this role is played by the groom's aunt. Given Xiao Nanya's unique circumstances, Jiang Peihuan assumed they could skip this part. However, he unexpectedly arranged for the eldest princess to come. Having the eldest princess here is an honor for me. Please, take a seat. Hearing the eldest princess words, Shui Yang quickly responded. The eldest princess did not decline and gracefully sat down. Nanny, give Miss Jiang her gift. After sitting down, the eldest princess directed her maid. Soon, a wooden box was presented to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing the confusion in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, the eldest princess smiled and said, Today is your wedding day. One brought a gift for you. Open it and see. Opening the box, Jiang Peihuan saw a necklace inside. This necklace was exquisite, adorned with gemstones that were clearly not ordinary. Thank you, Your Highness. Although the gift was valuable, It matched the eldest princess status. After accepting the gift, Jiang Peihuan quietly expressed her gratitude. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's composed demeanor, the smile in the eldest princess' eyes deepened. After your wedding with Nanye, we will be family. Once Jiang Peihuan marries Xiao Nanye, she will need to address the eldest princess as imperial sister. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan nodded and softly replied, yes. Madam, old Madam Shu is here. Old Madam Shu? Shui Yang went out and discovered that the visitor was the mother of Duke Shu, old Madam Shu. Duke Shu of the Qi Kingdom was a key official in the court. He was known for his strict and resolute character but was highly regarded by Emperor Qi Ming. Even though Duke Shu was strict, he was also famously known for his filial piety. However, the general's mansion and the Shu family didn't have much interaction. So, seeing the arrival of the old Madam Shu at this moment, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of puzzlement. Old Madam Shu was over 80 years old this year, but she was still spirited. Upon seeing Jiang Peihuan, old Madam Shu smiled broadly. No wonder King Cheng personally asked me to be your matron of good fortune. Indeed, you're a blessed child. Thank you for your efforts, old Madam Shu. Hearing old Madam Zu's words, Jiang Peihuan stepped forward and respectfully bowed. While others might think Jiang Peihuan was merely expressing gratitude for old Madam Zu's role, only Jiang Peihuan knew it was because of an incident from her past life. In her past life, the Jiang family was annihilated. During the difficult times, among the entire court, only Duke Shu spoke up for the Jiang family. Though it didn't change the Jiang family's fate, Jiang Peihuan still remembered his kindness. Thus, seeing old Madam Shu now, Jiang Peihuan's eyes held deep respect. I haven't prepared much for today. This amulet was a gift from my grandmother when I was young. Today, one will give it to you. Take it and cherish it. Old Madam Shu, standing beside Jiang Peihuan, took an amulet from her waist. The amulet was warm to the touch and symbolized safety and peace. Hearing old Madam Zu's words, Jiang Peihuan bowed again. Thank you, old Madam Shu. Old sister, am one late? A hearty laughter came from outside the door. It was old Madam Zhong. Beside her was Zhong Yu. Since leaving the Yin family last time, Jiang Peihuan hadn't seen Zhong Yu for a long time. Seeing her now, Jiang Peihuan noticed that Zhong Yu looked much more spirited than before. Old Madam Zhong, Aunt Zhong. Huan today you're getting married. One brought makeup as a gift, hoping that you and King Cheng will live happily ever after. As Zhong Yu spoke, she handed Jiang Peihuan a large wooden box. The makeup gifts were supposed to be displayed, so Jiang Peihuan immediately opened the box. However, upon seeing the contents, she was stunned. The box, the size of an arm, was filled with various jewels. Did you bring all the dowry your mother gave you? Remarked old Madam Shui. The Shui family and Zhong family had always been close, so old Madam Shui watched Zhong Yu grow up. Hearing old Madam Shui's words, Zhong Yu laughed. Aunt Shui, are you joking? These trinkets are nothing. Thank you, Aunt Zhong. Knowing the relationship between Zhong Yu and her mother, Jiang Peihuan softly thanked her after accepting the gift. Chapter 263, The Grand Wedding. Old Madam Shu, it's about time. Let's start dressing up the bride. Looking at the time, the eldest princess reminded old Madam Shu softly. Soon after, Jiang Peihuan, assisted by Yu and Lu changed into her wedding dress. This wedding dress was sent over by Xiao Nanye. Traditionally, the bride was supposed to embroider her own wedding dress. However, Xiao Nanye had simply sent over a ready-made one. Box novel. This wedding dress is really well embroidered. When Jiang Peihuan stepped out from behind the screen, everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. All present had seen luxurious items before, but upon seeing the wedding dress on Jiang Peihuan, they couldn't help but praise it. Jiang Peihuan had seen the wedding dress before, but wearing it during the day, seeing herself in the red dress in the mirror, she felt an unusual sensation. She couldn't help thinking of that man. Newlyweds typically wore red. It was hard for Jiang Peihuan to imagine what Xiao Nanye would look like in red. King Cheng's mansion. Master, are you ready? When Han Feng opened the door to Xiao Nanyes' room, he saw the man sitting there in a bright red wedding dress. Seeing this, Han Feng was startled. What time is it now? When are we going to pick up the bride? Hearing Xiao Nanyes' words, Han Feng couldn't help but twitch his lips. Looking at Xiao Nanyes' untouched bed, Han Feng said, Master, you didn't sleep all night, did you? Millimeter seeing Xiao Nanya nod, Han Feng was speechless. Imperial uncle, half a tea's time later, several princes had arrived at the King Cheng's mansion, all except for Xiao Juanhao. After all, it was also his wedding day. Even though Xiao Juanhao was under reflection due to the emperor's orders, he could still go out on his wedding day. But his wounds hadn't healed, making him look pale. Against the bright red wedding robe, his complexion seemed even worse. Have the guests not arrived? Seeing the empty courtyard, Xiao Juanhao looked displeased. The steward, hearing this, looked troubled. After a long pause, he said, several princes went to King Cheng's mansion, so, the Prince Ching's mansion had no guests. There were only so many families in the capital. As both Prince Ching's and King Cheng's mansions were holding weddings on the same day, those who went to King Cheng's mansion naturally couldn't come to Prince Ching's. Hearing this, Xiao Juanhao looked even more displeased. Similarly displeased was Lin Mengyaro. In the end, Lin Mengyaro didn't get married from the Lin mansion. As Lin Xingchen was now the head of the Lin family, Lin Mengyaro had to marry from a small house in the capital, which Xiao Juanhao had given her. Why are there only these items? Looking at the few boxes in the courtyard, Lin Mengyaro felt embarrassed. She had married into the Prince Ching mansion as a secondary consort. If she didn't present a worthy dowry, she would surely be looked down upon by the people of the mansion. These dowries were even inferior to what a common official might provide for his daughter. Miss, all our possessions were in the previous mansion. These items were acquired after the mistress sold her own jewelry. A maid, seeing Lin Mengyao's expression, whispered. Hearing this, Lin Mengyaro bit her lip. She wore a rose-red wedding dress. Yes, rose-red. Because she was a secondary consort, she couldn't wear bright red, so she chose rose-red. Everyone move. Just as Lin Mengyaro was feeling upset, there was a commotion at the door. She turned and saw Xuerayu entering. Seeing her, Lin Mengyaro frowned but approached her. Why are you here? I naturally came to congratulate the secondary consort. When Xuerayu said secondary consort, she emphasized the word, revealing a hint of disdain. Before Lin Mengyaro could say anything, Xuerayu entered the house. Seeing her back, Lin Mengyao's eyes darkened. Secondary consort, it's better if your maid stay outside. After all, if I say something one shouldn't, it won't be me who looks bad. Recalling the past events, Lin Mengyaro turned to her maids and said, you wait here. Yes, miss. The maid stayed by the door, and Xuerayu and Lin Mengyaro walked in together. Lin Mengyao, do you know the trouble you've caused me? As soon as they entered the room, Xuerayu glared coldly at Lin Mengyao. However, Lin Mengyao, hearing these words, showed no sign of guilt. She merely replied, I assent it your own fault. If you had succeeded, by now you would be hailed as a great hero of Prince Ching's mansion, and the prince would not have been reprimanded. Upon hearing Lin Mengyao's words, Xuera's eyes filled with rage. Yet, remembering her purpose for visiting, she calmed herself and approached Lin Mengyao, saying softly, one came here not to dig up the past, but to discuss something important with you. What is it? Noticing the serious expression on Xuera's face, Lin Mengyao instinctively asked. Xuerayu gestured Lin Mengyao closer, but as she approached, Lin Mengyao suddenly felt a sharp pain in her neck. Soon after, Lin Mengyao collapsed onto the ground. Looking at the person lying on the ground, a sinister expression appeared in Xuera's eyes. With a strong kick to Lin Mengyao, Xuerayu began to undress her, quickly changing into Lin Mengyao's clothes. Xuerayu then shoved Lin Mengyao under the bed. Meanwhile, Jiang Peihuan had no clue about what was happening on Lin Mengyao's side. As dusk approached, the sound of festive firecrackers could be heard outside. Then, the voice of Lua reached Jiang Peihuan's ears. Eldest miss, His Highness is here. It's just getting dark. Why is he here so early? The younger generations of the Jiang and Shui families were seated in Jiang Peihuan's room. Hearing Louis' words, Jiang Changbai responded with irritation. No one answered his question. The eldest princess and old Madame Shu were also in the room. Upon hearing the noise, they hurriedly spoke, "Quick, cover the bride's head." Jiang Peihuan's hair was combed by old Madame Shu herself. Taking the red bridal veil from the maid's hands, old Madame Shu carefully placed it on Jiang Peihuan. Just as the veil was put in place, the sound of laughter came from the door. "King Cheng, if you want to take my elder sister away, you'll have to get past me." The one speaking was Jiang Songbai. Standing at the forefront, he unveiled a couplet in his hands and, looking at Xiao Nanye, said with a smile, "Your Highness, if you cannot complete this couplet today, I won't let you set foot in Plum Garden." Chapter 264. Picking up the bride. Xiao Nanye didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the couplet in Jiang Songbai's hand. After a moment of silence, he picked up the brush he had prepared and wrote the second verse on another piece of paper. "Is this considered as me passing your test?" he said, putting down the brush and looking at Jiang Songbai. Looking down at the couplet on the white paper, Jiang Songbai showed a hint of surprise in his eyes. He had always known that King Cheng was brave on the battlefield, but he had no idea that his literary talent was also so exceptional. Box novel. Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Jiang Songbai bowed slightly and stepped aside, saying, "Please, Your Highness." A smile appeared in Xiao Nanye's eyes. He slowly moved forward, but when he reached the second door, he heard Jiang Xijin's voice, "Stop." Jiang Xijin stood at the entrance of the second door, holding a long whip, with Jiang Ruyun by her side. Looking at Xiao Nanye approaching the door, Jiang Xijin spoke up, "Your Highness, if you wish to pass through this door, you must pass my challenge." "And what would be considered as passing your challenge?" "Simple." As she finished speaking, Jiang Xijin pointed to a tree behind her. On its branch was a red ribbon. "Do you see that red ribbon? You send someone to shoot it with an arrow, and I will block it. If anyone can shoot down that ribbon, then you pass. Bring the bow and arrow." Upon hearing Jiang Xijin's words, Xiao Nanye immediately turned to someone by his side, but before he could finish speaking, Jiang Ruyun whispered, "Your Highness cannot do this yourself." Meeting Xiao Nanye's puzzled look, Jiang Ruyun whispered, "The entire Qi kingdom knows of King Cheng's exceptional archery skills. If you compete against Jiang Xijin, wouldn't that be an unfair match? Therefore, I would like to ask Your Highness to choose one person from the people behind you. Oh, and no soldiers." After thinking a bit, Jiang Ruyun added the last sentence. Hearing this, Xiao Nanye frowned. Though Jiang Xijin was young, she had practiced martial arts since childhood. The archery skills of an ordinary person were no match for hers. At that moment, Prince Xiao Junmo approached Xiao Nanye and whispered, "Imperial uncle, let me do it." "Are you confident?" "Don't worry, uncle. One won't let you down." Xiao Nanye didn't say anything but looked at the people around him. Soon, a bow and arrow were handed to Prince Xiao Junmo, and Jiang Xijin were of similar age. They both stepped forward. As Xiao Junmo drew his arrow, Jiang Xijin did the same. When Xiao Junmo released his arrow, Jiang Xijin's arrow flew out almost simultaneously. As the arrow was about to hit the red ribbon, it was shot down by an arrow from Jiang Xijin. Seeing this, a hint of disappointment appeared in Prince An's eyes. Although Xiao Junmo was young, influenced by Xiao Nanye, he had loved horse archery since childhood. Now, even a young girl could easily shoot down his arrow, which made his expression turn grave. "It's down." On Xiao Junmo's third attempt, Jiang Xijin's arrow was a second slow, so the red ribbon on the tree branch was directly shot down. As the red ribbon fell, Xiao Nanye quickly grabbed it. Handing it to Jiang Xijin, Xiao Nanye smiled and said, "Now, can I pass through the second door?" Looking at the red ribbon in Xiao Nanye's hand, Jiang Xijin seemed a bit disappointed but still stepped aside as agreed. Xiao Nanye, with a few princes, headed towards the plum garden. When he reached the entrance of the plum garden, he saw Jiang Changbai standing there. Seeing him, Xiao Nanya stopped. "Big brother, do you have any challenges for me?" Though the two hadn't had their wedding ceremony yet, Xiao Nanya had already changed his address for Jiang Changbai. Hearing his new address, a flicker passed through Jiang Changbai's eyes. Looking at the man before him and thinking that he would soon take his sister away, Jiang Changbai's eyes were filled with mixed emotions. After a moment of silence, Jiang Changbai said, "I only need you to answer one question. Please speak, big brother. Will you treat Huan well for the rest of your life? I swear on my life that if I ever mistreat Huan may I die with no place to be buried." Xiao Nanya's voice was not loud, but his expression was firm. Hearing his words, Jiang Changbai's eyes softened. Stepping aside, Jiang Changbai whispered, "Go in. Huan is waiting for you." "Thank you, big brother." After bowing to Jiang Changbai, Xiao Nanya entered the plum garden. Xiao Nanya had been to Jiang Peihuan's room many times, but he had never been as excited as he was now. Upon entering the room, he immediately saw the person sitting on the bed. Jiang Peihuan's head was covered with a red veil, and Xiao Nanya couldn't see her face, but he could see her hands clasped on her knees. Stepping forward, Xiao Nanya spoke softly, "Huan I'm here to pick you up. Will you come with me?" Under the veil, Jiang Peihuan didn't speak, but she gave a soft affirmative response. Hearing her voice, Xiao Nanya's eyes were filled with smiles. "Let me help." Yu wanted to come forward to assist Jiang Peihuan, but Xiao Nanya had already reached out his hand first. When Jiang Peihuan held Xiao Nanya's palm, she found that the man's hand was somewhat sweaty. Before she could react, she felt herself being lifted off the ground. "Huan I'll carry you out." There was an immediate outburst of cheers around them. But all Jiang Peihuan heard was the man's heartbeat. Resting in Xiao Nanya's arms, Jiang Peihuan could clearly hear his heart beating faster than usual. Holding Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanya walked step by step, his pace very steady. Being held by him, Jiang Peihuan didn't feel any jolting at all. "Huan." After walking for a while, a familiar voice reached Jiang Peihuan's ears. It was Shui Yang, along with the voices of old Madame Jiang and old Madame Shui. Then, Jiang Peihuan felt Xiao Nanya come to a stop. "Mother." It was Xiao Nanya's voice. Instead of addressing Shui Yang as mother-in-law, Xiao Nanya, like Jiang Peihuan, simply called her mother. Hearing Xiao Nanya's title for her, Shui Yang's eyes showed a hint of a smile, but that smile was mixed with unexplained tears. The members of the Jiang family looked at Jiang Peihuan in Xiao Nanya's arms, their eyes filled with reluctance. None knew what to say. In the end, it was Jiang Hong who looked at Xiao Nanya and softly said, "Your Highness, please take good care of my daughter in the future. Father, rest assured. Elders, please be assured as well. In this life, I will definitely cherish and take good care of Huan. It's getting late, let them go." Chapter 265, Encounter on the road. After old Madame Jiang spoke, no one dared to delay any longer. Xiao Nanya carefully placed Jiang Peihuan into the sedan chair. "I've put a lot of snacks inside. If you get bored, you can have some," Xiao Nanya whispered into Jiang Peihuan's ear as he settled her in. There were 16 sedan chairs, and they were very spacious. "Let's go." As Xiao Nanya's command echoed, Jiang Peihuan felt the sedan chair start to move. She carefully lifted the red veil covering her head. She saw an array of cakes and snacks inside the sedan chair, and even some tea. Seeing all this, a smile graced Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Xiao Nanya rode at the forefront on his horse, occasionally glancing back at the sedan chair. Behind Jiang Peihuan's sedan chair was a seemingly endless procession, all her dowry. Jiang Hong and Shui Yang had prepared a dowry of 120 loads for Jiang Peihuan. Previously, the gifts Xiao Nanya sent were all added to the dowry, making the procession seemingly endless, filled with red. Sitting in the sedan chair, Jiang Peihuan's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. In her previous life, she had been forced into taking her own life by Xiao Juanhao. Upon reincarnation, she sought revenge and the protection of the Jiang family. She hadn't expected to meet Xiao Nanya in this life. Thinking of him, her expression softened. Suddenly, the sedan chair came to a halt, pulling her out of her reverie. Jiang Peihuan leaned towards the window, calling out, "Yu Er?" Accompanying her marriage were Yu Er, Lu Er, and Yi Xiao. "Eldest miss, I'm here," Yu Er replied hastily. "Why have we stopped? Today is also the day Prince Qing is getting married. He just picked up his bride from the post station, and our processions have met." Guessing from the time, Jiang Peihuan presumed they were near the city's protective river. Due to the river, the road was narrow, unable to accommodate 2 processions at once. However, Jiang Peihuan believed that Xiao Nanya could handle it. Up ahead, because of the wedding, Xiao Nanya's eyes had a hint of gentleness that he didn't have in the past. However, when he saw Xiao Juanhao blocking his way, the gentleness in Xiao Nanya's eyes instantly disappeared. Xiao Juanhao didn't look pleased either. Because all the princes had gone to the King Cheng's mansion, so Xiao Juanhao was alone for his wedding. Compared to Xiao Nanya's procession, his looked thin. Compared to Xiao Nanya's team, his team was very thin. Looking at the dowry behind Jiang Peihuan's sedan chair, Xiao Junhao's face darkened even more. Although King Chujiang's mansion was very wealthy, but after King Chujiang died, most of the treasures were sent to the court. Hence, Jiang Yang's dowry seemed average. It didn't seem significant until compared with Jiang Peihuan's, where the difference was glaring. "Prince Qing, as the junior, you should step back a few steps." Seeing that neither party had any intention of speaking up, the eldest princess, who was the matchmaker, stepped forward. After some thought, she turned to Xiao Juanhao and said, "On any other day, Xiao Juanhao would never have refused the eldest princess. But today, upon hearing her words, Xiao Juanhao directly responded, 'Imperial aunt, on a normal day, I would yield. They say the newlyweds are the most important. Today is not just imperial uncle wedding, but also mine. So, today, one do not wish to step back. If you won't move, you'll have to.'" As Xiao Junhao's words fell, Xiao Nanya immediately responded. Before Xiao Juanhao could react, he felt a pain in his shoulder, and the next moment, he was thrown off his horse. Xiao Junhao's reaction was swift. When Xiao Nanya kicked him off the horse, he quickly stabilized himself. But even so, he could see the mockery in everyone's eyes. Xiao Juanhao looked at Xiao Nanya with an intense gloom in his eyes. When their eyes met, Xiao Nanya did not flinch. After a long time, Xiao Juanhao turned to the people behind him and said, "Retreat." The people from Prince Qing's mansion stepped aside, and Xiao Nanya led his group forward. The sedan chair continued its journey. Even though she couldn't see the expression on Xiao Junhao's face, Jiang Peihuan could imagine how displeased he must have looked. At that moment, Jiang Peihuan felt immensely pleased because none of these events happened in her past life. With the previous emperor and Xiao Nanya's biological mother both gone, after entering King Cheng's mansion, the two only worshipped heaven and earth. Then, Jiang Peihuan was taken to the room. "Huan I'll step out for a moment and come back soon." Seeing Jiang Peihuan sitting on the bed, Xiao Nanya really didn't want to leave to deal with the others outside. But with everyone waiting outside, Xiao Nanya had no choice. Hearing Xiao Nanya's voice, Jiang Peihuan nodded, "All right. Imperial uncle, shouldn't you remove the veil for Imperial aunt first?" Just as Jiang Peihuan was speaking, the room's door was suddenly pushed open. The ones who entered were naturally Prince An and the others. Normally, they would never dare to tease Xiao Nanya. But tonight, perhaps Xiao Nanya was in a good mood, so everyone continuously joked around. Under their tease, Xiao Nanya gently lifted the veil from Jiang Peihuan's head. When the veil was lifted, Jiang Peihuan felt a brightness in front of her. The first thing she saw was Xiao Nanya in red. This was the first time Jiang Peihuan saw Xiao Nanya in red. She was used to seeing men in black. In her eyes, Xiao Nanya looked best in black. But now, seeing Xiao Nanya in red, Jiang Peihuan changed her mind. The red made Xiao Nanya look more enchanting, adding a hint of allure to his presence. At this moment, Xiao Nanye's eyes were filled with amazement. He always knew that Jiang Peihuan was beautiful. Usually, she didn't wear makeup, but today, she was fully dressed up. Seeing her like this, Xiao Nanye felt a sense of unreality. He reached out and suddenly grasped Jiang Peihuan's hand. Only after feeling the warmth of her palm did he feel a sense of reality. No wonder Imperial is so smitten with the Imperial aunt. She is indeed so beautiful. Not only Xiao Nanye was amazed, but the other princes were also stunned upon seeing Jiang Peihuan. Upon hearing this, Xiao Nanye couldn't help but frown. He instinctively shielded Jiang Peihuan and then looked at the princes, saying, "Weren't you going out for drinks? Leave now." Chapter 266. Arriving at the King Cheng mansion with that, Xiao Nanye pushed everyone out of the door. In this state, he didn't want others to see Jiang Peihuan. "You all take care of the princess." "Yes." Xiao Nanye glanced at the people in the room and said softly. When speaking to the maids, his tone was very cold, and everyone quickly responded. Afterwards, Xiao Nanye looked at Jiang Peihuan, his tone becoming gentle again. "I'll be back soon." "All right." Hearing the man's voice, Jiang Peihuan nodded. Then, Xiao Nanye left the bridal chamber. After Xiao Nanye left, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but look around the house. Previously, with her veil on, she hadn't noticed. But now, she was shocked because the room she was in was identical to the plum garden in the general's mansion where she used to stay. If she wasn't aware that she was currently in King Cheng's mansion, she would have thought she was still in the plum garden. "Eldest miss, you don't know, I was startled when one first came in. This yard is identical to the plum garden. I almost thought we were back in the general's mansion. We can't call you eldest miss anymore. We should change that." Just as Lu'er finished speaking, Yu'er softly chimed in. "Knock, knock." At this moment, there was a knock at the door. Hearing the sound, Jiang Peihuan glanced at Yu'er, who went straight to the door. The person knocking was a guard from the mansion. He held various foods in his hands. After handing them over to Yu'er, he whispered, "By the king's orders, food for the queen." Yu'er quickly took the items. After bringing the food back to the room, Lu'er looked at Jiang Peihuan and said, "Queen, there seem to be no other women in this mansion. Apart from them, they only saw attendants and soldiers wherever they went." Jiang Peihuan had already noticed this. When she first visited King Cheng's mansion to deliver some snacks to Xiao Nanye, she found that there wasn't a single maid or elderly female servant in the entire mansion. Knock, knock. The door was knocked on again. This time, a voice outside the door said, "Queen, I am the steward of the mansion, here to pay my respects." Although it was odd for the steward to pay his respects on the first day of marriage, considering Jiang Peihuan was new to the mansion, she let Yu'er open the door. "Greetings, Queen." The steward, who looked to be in his 60s, entered and bowed to Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan raised her hand slightly. "Please, get up." Once the steward stood up, she looked at him and asked softly, "Do you have something to discuss at this time, or does the king have any instructions for me?" In front of outsiders, Jiang Peihuan wouldn't call Xiao Nanye by his name. Hearing her words, the steward quickly said, "The queen misunderstands." "I came tonight simply to wish you well and to bring the ceremonial wine." Only then did Jiang Peihuan notice someone behind the steward holding a wine cup and jug. "Uncle Zhong, why are you here?" Before Jiang Peihuan could speak, Xiao Nanye walked into the room. Seeing Xiao Nanye, Uncle Zhong quickly bowed. "Your Highness, 1 a.m. here to deliver the ceremonial wine for you and the princess." As he spoke, Uncle Zhong lowered his head. Hearing this, Xiao Nanye replied softly, "Such a minor matter could have been handled by others." From Xiao Nanye's tone, Jiang Peihuan could tell that he treated Uncle Zhong differently. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan told Yu'er, "Take the wine to the room." Yu'er stepped forward, saying softly, "Give it to me." As Yu'er took the wine and went into the room, Xiao Nanye said to the steward, "Uncle Zhong, you may rest now." "Yes." As Uncle Zhong left the room, he couldn't help but glance in the direction Yue had gone. When no one was looking, his eyes were filled with turmoil and complexity. In the imperial palace. Although Emperor Qiming did not leave the palace, because today was Xiao Nanyes' wedding day, he generously rewarded the palace staff. So the entire imperial palace was filled with joy, except for the Sinning Palace. Under the cover of night, the entire Sinning Palace was quiet. The great Empress Dowager sat in her chair, continuously rolling the Buddhist beads in her hand. At this moment, hurried footsteps echoed, causing the great Empress Dowager to pause her actions. Then, the old nanny walked into the hall. Approaching the great Empress Dowager, she bowed and said, "Your Majesty, Uncle Zhong has made his move." Hearing this, the great Empress Dowager opened her eyes, a glint of sharpness appearing within. Ever since the last assassination attempt failed, she had been patient. She waited until today, Xiao Nanyes' wedding day, believing that after today, there would be no King Cheng anymore. That bastard is finally going to be eliminated. One hope everything goes smoothly. Rest assured, Your Majesty. The poison comes from the western regions, colorless and tasteless. Your wishes will surely be fulfilled. The great Empress Dowager did not speak, but continued to rub the beads in her hands. In Prince Cheng's mansion. After the steward left, Xiao Nanyi did not immediately take Jiang Peihuan back to their room. Instead, he looked at her and asked, "Would you like to see how the courtyard is arranged?" Jiang Peihuan had already heard Lu about the similarities between this courtyard and the plum garden. What she saw now was indeed the same as the hall in Plum Garden. But upon hearing his words, she still nodded. Seeing her nod, Xiao Nanya held Jiang Peihuan's hand. The two then walked into the courtyard. Upon reaching, Xiao Nanya said to Jiang Peihuan, "I built this based on your plum garden. However, this tree has just been planted. I'm afraid it will take a few years to grow as big as the tree in your plum garden." Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Jiang Peihuan looked up at the small tree in front of her. In her plum garden, there was a large pear tree in the yard. The little tree in front of her was also a pear tree, just smaller. "It's fine. Let's wait for it to grow. Huan tell me if there's anything different or something you dislike, and I'll have it changed tomorrow." "There's no need. It's perfect as it is," Jiang Peihuan softly replied. Upon hearing her response, a smile appeared in Xiao Nanya's eyes. Although it was a sunny day, it was still winter, making it quite cold outside. Feeling the dropping temperature, Xiao Nanya said, "Let's go back to our room." "Yes." Xiao Nanya, holding Jiang Peihuan's hand, entered their room. Both Yu and Lu had already left. Therefore, only Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan were left in the room. The room was well heated by charcoal. Whether it was due to the high temperature or something else, Jiang Peihuan suddenly felt a warmth spreading within her. Chapter 267. Xiao Nanya was poisoned. She sat down by the bed, but felt slightly uncomfortable. Turning around, she saw the bed behind her was covered with various nuts. "What's going on?" Upon seeing Jiang Peihuan frowning, Xiao Nanya hurriedly approached, and followed her gaze to see the things on the bed. By the time he returned, he held 2 wine glasses. Sitting next to Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanya whispered, "Huan we still need to drink this ceremonial wine. After drinking it, let's rest early." Jiang Peihuan had a feeling that when Xiao Nanya mentioned resting, his tone was a bit heavier. Jiang Peihuan didn't respond, but took a wine glass from Xiao Nanya's hand. Their arms touched, and both drained the wine in one gulp. Looking at the empty wine glasses, Xiao Nanya's expression turned passionate. Taking the wine glass from Jiang Peihuan's hand, the man hugged her tightly. "Huan you are finally my queen." When embraced by Xiao Nanya, Jiang Peihuan could clearly hear his heartbeat, just as when he had held her when they left the plum garden. The crown on Jiang Peihuan's head had been removed. Now, her long hair flowed freely, cascading down her back, and this appearance of Jiang Peihuan deeply mesmerized Xiao Nanya. Xiao Nanya leaned down, unable to resist kissing Jiang Peihuan. Soon after, both fell onto the bed behind them. Xiao Nanya rolled over, gently laying on top of Jiang Peihuan. Looking down at her, he whispered, Huan at this moment. Suddenly, Xiao Nanya felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Before he could finish his sentence, he felt a surge of blood in his chest, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. The bright red blood splashed onto the crimson bedsheets, making it almost indistinguishable. Xiao Nanya? Jiang Peihuan's expression changed instantly. Sitting up, she quickly held Xiao Nanya. The wine. The man tried to say something, but after uttering this single word, he passed out. Jiang Peihuan hurriedly felt for Xiao Nanya's pulse, only to find that she couldn't determine his condition. Gently laying Xiao Nanya down on the bed, she took a deep breath. He had turned pale, and his lips started to turn blue, signs of poisoning. Thinking of what Xiao Nanya had said, Jiang Peihuan went to the table and picked up the wine glass. Filled with confusion, Jiang Peihuan pondered. Both had drunk the same wine, but why was only Xiao Nanya poisoned? Upon closer examination, she realized that the poison wasn't in the wine, but on Xiao Nanya's wine glass. As for why only Xiao Nanya was poisoned and she wasn't, Jiang Peihuan couldn't figure it out. Lost in thought, and looking at Xiao Nanya on the bed, Jiang Peihuan went to the door and softly called, Yi Xiao? Your Highness. Yi Xiao, originally a secret guard, immediately recognized Jiang Peihuan's voice. Your Highness, what happened? Yi Xiao instantly sensed something was off from Jiang Peihuan's breathing and tone. Go and fetch Han Feng quickly. Xiao Nanya has been poisoned. Understood. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Yi Xiao's expression changed, and she rushed off. A moment later, Han Feng hurriedly entered the room of Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya, forgetting even to knock on the door. She looked at Xiao Nanya lying on the bed, and the expression in Han Feng's eyes was unpleasant. How could this happen? Your Highness, what poison did Master take? I'm not sure about the poison, but one know its antidote. However, a crucial ingredient for the antidote is in the western regions. I'll go get it. Yi Xiao, who was standing by, immediately said. But Jiang Peihuan shook her head. I've sealed Xiao Nanya's acupoints with golden needles to prevent the poison from spreading, but this method won't last long. At most, it can only hold for 10 days. Even if you travel day and night from the capital to the western regions, it will take more than 10 days. So, the only option is for me to take Xiao Nanya to the western regions. I'll arrange for someone right away, Han Feng responded immediately. However, Jiang Peihuan stopped him. You have more important things to do. Facing Han Feng's puzzled look, she continued, someone in our mansion is responsible for poisoning Xiao Nanya. You stay and investigate. And do we have someone who know how to disguise themselves? Yes. Seeing Han Feng nod, Jiang Peihuan whispered, have someone disguise as me and Xiao Nanya. From today on, the Cheng's mansion will be closed to all visitors. By the way, where's the steward? The wine was delivered by the steward. Although Jiang Peihuan didn't suspect him, he was still involved. However, the news she received about him left her grim-faced. Because Uncle Zhong was already dead upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan was almost certain that the Uncle Zhong had something to do with the poisoning. She then looked at Han Feng and ordered, stay in the capital, guard the mansion, and investigate Xiao Nanya's poisoning. Yes. Initially, when Han Feng learned of Xiao Nanya's poisoning, he was panicked. But after hearing Jiang Peihuan's arrangements, his heart suddenly settled. Yi Xiao, visit the Huainan prince's mansion and find the Huainan prince. Tell him I'm here to collect the favor he owes me. Yes. An hour later, Zhao Yong arrived at the Cheng mansion alone. Receiving the message from Yi Xiao, he was puzzled because today was Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan's wedding day. He couldn't fathom why she would summon him at this time. However, upon seeing Xiao Nanya lying on the bed, Zhao Yong understood. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he asked directly, has King Cheng been poisoned? Hearing Zhao Yong's words, Jiang Peihuan said softly, it seems I've found the right person in you. The last time Zhao Yong quickly found the medicine, Jiang Peihuan felt that he had remarkable medical knowledge. Now she was more convinced. Your Highness called me today to help find the medicine? Not to find medicine, but to accompany me to the western regions. Is the antidote that King Cheng needs in the western regions? Yes. All right, 111 accompany you, considering it as returning the favor when you saved my mother that day. Thank you. Hearing Zhao Yong's words, Jiang Peihuan softly expressed her gratitude. Choosing Zhao Yong to accompany her was a decision she made after careful consideration. Neither people from the general's mansion nor those from King Cheng's mansion should leave the capital. Chapter 268, Substitute Marriage. Looking back and forth, Jiang Peihuan thought that Zhao Yong was the most suitable candidate. Even though Zhao Yong had become the heir of Huainan King, because of his birth mother, Emperor Qiming did not have any taboos against him. Therefore, Zhao Yong's entry and exit from the capital was very convenient. After finalizing with Zhao Yong, Jiang Peihuan called Yu and Lu into the room. Both of them looked worried. They never expected such a thing to happen on their wedding day. You two stay in the mansion, keep things quiet, and act as if I'm still here. Yes. Jiang Peihuan still didn't know who the real mastermind behind this was, so she didn't dare let outsiders know the current situation of the Cheng mansion. After everything was prepared, Jiang Peihuan left the mansion with Xiao Nanya. Zhao Yong was already waiting at the back door. After Jiang Peihuan got on the carriage with Xiao Nanya, a white figure darted into the carriage. Zhao Yong immediately reached for his long sword, but Jiang Peihuan quickly shouted, "Hold on, Prince. That's my pet." The one who rushed into the carriage was none other than Xiao Bai. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Zhao Yong put back his sword, but a surprised look appeared in his eyes, because he clearly saw that it was a white wolf. However, Zhao Yong didn't say anything more and ordered his men to move out. Inside the carriage, Jiang Peihuan looked at the suddenly appearing Xiao Bai and gently stroked its head. "Why did you come? Didn't one ask you to stay with Yu in the mansion?" Xiao Bai, unable to speak, licked Jiang Peihuan's hand in response. The capital city was destined to be restless that night. With Xiao Nanya poisoned, the prince's Qing mansion was in chaos. "Why is it you?" Looking at Shuai Yu sitting on the bed, Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with doubt. After a few seconds, his expression turned to fury. After picking up Jiang Yang from the post station, Xiao Junhao went to the city center to fetch Lin Mengyao. But when he unveiled the bride's veil, it wasn't Lin Mengyao, but Shuai Yu. Seeing the anger in Xiao Junhao's eyes, Shuai's heart trembled, but she looked at him pitifully and said, "Your Highness, I've already lost the child in my belly, one can't lose you too. No matter what, you are the one who welcomed me at the door today, so from now on, I'm the second consort of Prince Qing's mansion. Where's Yao?" Hearing Shuai's words, the anger in Xiao Junhao's eyes intensified, but he held it back. "Your Highness, Miss Lin is here." As soon as Xiao Junhao's voice fell, a servant's voice came from outside. Soon after, Lin Mengyao was brought to Xiao Junhao. Seeing Shuai Yu in a bright red wedding dress, Lin Mengyao's expression darkened. She never expected Shuai Yu to dare knock her out and wear her wedding dress. More importantly, the person who had the wedding ceremony with Xiao Junhao today was Shuai Yu, not her. And this ceremony cannot be redone, making Lin Mengyao even more sullen. "Your Highness, she knocked me out and changed into my wedding dress, so what? If it weren't for your suggestion, asking me to go to the general's mansion, how would my child have been lost? Why would one have knocked you out?" Before Lin Mengyao could finish speaking, Shuai Yu interrupted her. Hearing this, Lin Mengyao's expression turned even more fierce. Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with hostility. If this matter spreads, he would be the laughingstock of the entire capital. Or perhaps, he already is. "Your Highness, main princess consort has arrived. What is she here for?" Upon hearing the steward's words, Xiao Junhao's already dark expression darkened even more. She mentioned it's about the two-side princess consort. "Let her in." Shortly after, Jiang Yang entered the small hall, still dressed in her bright red wedding dress. The vivid color deeply hurt both Lin Mengyao and Shuai Yu. Yet, Jiang Yang acted as if she didn't see them, bowing only to Xiao Juanhao. Greetings, Your Highness. Get up. Your Highness, I've heard about side consort Lin's situation. However, since you did welcome Miss Shui into the palace today, one suggest we make both Miss Shui and Miss Lin side consort. Upon hearing Jiang Yang's proposal, Lin Mengyaro frowned deeply, while Shui's eyes were filled with joy. Originally, when she knocked out Lin Mengyaro, it was based on Yi Xiao's idea. Shui Yu hadn't thought she could truly become a side consort, but now, she started to trust Jiang Peihuan's intentions more. Lin Mengyaro wanted to protest against Jiang Yang's proposal, but found herself at a loss for words, given that Xiao Juanhao did indeed bring Shui Yu into the palace himself. Let's proceed according to the main princess consort wishes. After a moment of silence, Xiao Juanhao coldly responded. Then, Jiang Yang continued, Your Highness, will you be visiting my chambers tonight or? I will be in your chambers. Even though Xiao Juanhao had a preference for Lin Mengyaro, Jiang Yang was the main princess consort. Because of this, he could only stay in her chambers that night. Lin Mengyao's eyes were filled with despair as she watched Xiao Juanhao and Jiang Yang leave together. After she woke up, she rushed to the Qing mansion. She thought that Xiao Juanhao would give her an explanation, but she did not expect such an outcome. Yet, she now had no right to object. After all, the current head of the Lin family was Lin Xingchen, not her father. This is my courtyard. Side consort Shui, please leave. After a long time, Lin Mengyaro looked at Shui Yu coldly and said. This courtyard was where Lin Mengyaro used to stay in the Qing palace. This time, Shui Yu didn't say much. Upon hearing Lin Mengyao's words, she left immediately. But, just before exiting the door, Shui Yu stopped. I'll remember everything you've done to me. With that, she left Lin Mengyao's courtyard. Meanwhile, Jiang Peihuan, accompanied by Xiao Nanye, had left the city area. Seeing Xiao Nanye lying in the carriage, a worried look crossed Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She had sealed Xiao Nanye's acupuncture points with golden needles. She thought that this would stop the spread of the poison, but when Jiang Peihuan checked Xiao Nanye's pulse, she found that the poison was still spreading, but the speed was slow. Originally, Jiang Peihuan had estimated that it would take 10 days, but it seemed that it would only take 8 at most. After covering Xiao Nanye with a blanket, she couldn't help but ask the rider outside the carriage, could we possibly go faster? From outside, Zhao Yong, riding on his horse, heard her request. He frowned but eventually responded softly, yes. After that, Jiang Peihuan could feel the carriage moving at a much faster pace. By dawn, they had already left the capital, but the snowstorm outside intensified. Queen, please eat something. Chapter 269, Rong Mo's companion. At this moment, Yi Xiao's voice sounded outside the window. Jiang Peihuan lifted the curtain and saw ration in Yi Xiao's hand. Because they were outside, there was no way to prepare food, so they had to make up for ration. And they couldn't delay due to Xiao Nanye's condition. Jiang Peihuan did not have much of an appetite, but she still took a steamed bun from Yi Xiao's hand and said softly, tell everyone to drink more hot water. Yes. After closing the curtain, Jiang Peihuan took a bite of the bun. Such a journey was nothing new for Jiang Peihuan. She had faced more challenging times with Jiang Hong on the battlefield. While Jiang Peihuan was eating, she heard the sound of horse hooves from behind. Soon after, the carriage Jiang Peihuan was in stopped. Queen, it seems someone is chasing us from behind. Hearing Yi Xiao's voice, Jiang Peihuan immediately stepped out of the carriage. People from behind caught up. At the forefront was a black horse, and the man on its back, dressed in white, was Rong Mo. Seeing him, Jiang Peihuan was full of surprise. Moments later, Rong Mo joined Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye in their carriage. As the group continued their journey, looking at the man sitting opposite her, Jiang Peihuan softly asked, Young Master Rong, why are you here? I heard from Han Feng about King Nanye's poisoning. I'm quite familiar with the western regions, so one came. You're familiar with the western regions? Jiang Peihuan caught on to this remark. Seeing him nod, Jiang Peihuan immediately asked, "Young Master Rong, have you heard of the soul-returning grass? You need the soul-returning grass." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, a hint of surprise appeared in Rong Mo's eyes. Jiang Peihuan, noticing his reaction, said confidently, "So, Master Rong knows about the soul-returning grass." Rong Mo paused for a moment before nodding. "The soul-returning grass is a treasure of the Western Region Palace." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. She only knew that the grass was in the Western regions, but she had no idea it was a treasure of the palace. No matter what, she had to get this grass. By the way, about the poisoning, Han Feng has already found out about it. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan instinctively looked at Rong Mo. Rong Mo's expression was calm, but a hint of anger appeared in his eyes. He softly said, "The one who poisoned King Cheng was the steward, Uncle Zhong. Who's the mastermind behind it?" Jiang Peihuan had already suspected Uncle Zhong, but she also believed there must be someone behind the scenes. "It's someone from the palace." After a long pause, Rong Mo said in a low voice. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan responded without hesitation, "Is it the Great Empress Dowager? How did you know?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Rong Mo's surprise deepened. Jiang Peihuan didn't answer Rong Mo's question but counter-asked, "Do you know why the Great Empress Dowager would do this?" She had asked Xiao Nanya the same question before, but he didn't provide an answer at that time. However, after recent events, she couldn't help but want to know. "Do you know about King Cheng's origin?" Upon hearing Rong Mo's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded, "I've heard bits and pieces." So the Great Empress Dowager repeatedly targeted Xiao Nanya because she suspected he wasn't the late emperor's biological son. It's not a suspicion. "What did you say?" Rong Mo's voice was soft but clear to Jiang Peihuan. Hearing his words, she was taken aback. Looking at Rong Mo, her eyes widened in shock. At this moment, as Rong Mo met Jiang Peihuan's gaze, he continued, "King Cheng, indeed, is not the biological son of the late emperor." Rong Mo's voice was so soft that if one wasn't paying close attention, they wouldn't hear it. But Jiang Peihuan heard it clearly. Xiao Nanya was not the biological son of the late emperor. Was this the secret he mentioned before? Jiang Peihuan looked down at the man lying in the carriage, her eyes full of complexity. Xiao Nanya knows this himself, doesn't he? Yes, King Cheng knew about it quite early on. Because he knew, that's why he went to war at a young age, wishing to distance himself from the court. However, even so, some people never intended to let him go. As Rong Mo spoke the last line, his eyes were filled with disdain. Silence pervaded the carriage. Neither Jiang Peihuan nor Rong Mo spoke further. In her previous life, Jiang Peihuan had no knowledge of these matters. Back then, she knew Xiao Nanya was a powerful king, but in her previous life, Xiao Nanya died early. When Jiang Peihuan heard this news back then, she found it puzzling. Thinking back now, perhaps in her past life, Xiao Nanya was murdered by the Great Empress Dowager. However, in this life, Xiao Nanya met her, leading to changes in the past events. Jiang Peihuan didn't speak but gently held Xiao Nanya's hand. She was aware of his affection and the things he did for her. Now, it was her turn to protect him. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's gesture, Rong Mo's eyes softened. However, recalling the news he received on his way here, Rong Mo's expression turned grave again. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he whispered, "You should prepare yourself mentally. The news from King Cheng's mansion means the Great Empress Dowager must already be informed. She won't let this go. I won't let anyone harm him." Hearing Rong Mo's words, Jiang Peihuan replied with determination shining in her eyes. In the Imperial Palace. Sinning Palace. The moment the door to the inner chamber was pushed open, the Great Empress Dowager looked towards the entrance. Seeing the person who entered, the Great Empress Dowager immediately asked, "Well?" "Your Majesty, King Cheng has indeed been poisoned, but Queen Cheng is taking him towards the western regions." Hearing the old nanny's words, the Great Empress Dowager's eyes darkened. "So that bastard Xiao Nanya is still alive. Your Majesty, the poison is difficult to cure, and the journey from the capital to the western regions is very far. Perhaps before reaching there, King Cheng might already be dead, we know. Before the old nanny could finish, the great Empress Dowager interrupted her. Looking at her, the great Empress Dowager whispered, 111 only be at peace once Imsure has dead. Call Zhao Yang for me. I've protected him for so many years, it's time he did something for me. Your Majesty, are you calling for King Huainan? Hearing the great Empress Dowager's words, shock filled the old nanny's eyes. Seeing her reaction, the great Empress Dowager softly said, others might not know, the seemingly powerless King Huainan has never been a simple person. Chapter 270. The Great Empress Dowager's Plans Go. The old nanny wanted to say something else, but seeing the look in the Great Empress Dowager's eyes, she ultimately didn't say anything. She gave the Great Empress Dowager a bow, and softly said, yes, I will go at once. An hour later, the King of Huainan, Zhao Yang, walked into Sinning Palace. Everyone in the palace knew that the Great Empress Dowager liked talking to old acquaintances, so when they saw King Huainan entering the Sinning Palace, nobody was surprised. The moment he entered the Sinning Palace, the usual gentleness in King Iluanan's eyes vanished, replaced by sharpness. Entering the inner hall of the Sinning Palace, Zhao Yang came forward to salute the Great Empress Dowager. Greetings, Your Majesty. Get up. After Zhao Yang stood up, the Great Empress Dowager spoke softly. One called you here today because one have a task that you must personally undertake. Upon hearing the Great Empress Dowager's words, surprise flashed in King Iluanan's eyes. What would Your Majesty have me do? I want you to journey to the western regions. No matter what method you employ, Xiao Nanya must be killed. The Great Empress Dowager then briefly recounted the current situation at King Cheng Mansion. After concluding, she added, I've heard your son, now the heir to your title, possesses commendable character. Should Xiao Nanya fall, a place among the capital's elite will assuredly be open to him. This was both a lure and a threat. Hearing the words of the Great Empress Dowager, a mix of emotions clouded King Iluanan's eyes. While many believed the Great Empress Dowager to be devoutly religious, Zhao Yang, having dealt with her for decades, had never bought into her feigned compassion. After a moment of contemplation, Zhao Yang bowed deeply. As Your Majesty wishes. Go. One await your good news. Yes. After paying his respects to the Great Empress Dowager, King Huainan made to leave. Yet, as he neared the inner hall's exit, the voice of the Great Empress Dowager echoed from behind, wait. He turned, does Your Majesty have further instructions? I've heard that Prince Qing and King Cheng have always been at odds. You might consider relaying this information to Prince Qing's mansion. Yes. Jiang Peihuan was completely unaware of the events happening within the palace. Night had fallen again, and they had been traveling for a day and a night. At that moment, Zhao Yong's voice came from outside, Queen, do you need to rest here? Let's rest here for 4 hours. Soon after, the team stopped. Jiang Peihuan lifted the curtain. After sitting in the carriage for such a long time, she felt her body was somewhat stiff. Looking at Rong Mo, who was resting with his eyes closed, Jiang Peihuan softly asked, would young Master Rong like to step out for a walk? No need. Rong Mo didn't even open his eyes. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, he simply replied faintly. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything more. She got out of the carriage. She hadn't felt it while she was inside, but when she stepped outside, she realized just how piercingly cold it was. The western regions are close to the northern border. The further you go in that direction, the colder it becomes. Jiang Peihuan wore a fiery red cloak, a gift from Xiao Nanya. When Zhao Yong rode up, the first thing he caught sight of was the blazing red figure of Jiang Peihuan. The deep red cloak accentuated Jiang Peihuan's skin, making it look as white as snow. Hearing the sound, Jiang Peihuan turned to look in Zhao Yong's direction. Huainan Prince. Seeing him, Jiang Peihuan nodded in acknowledgement. Dismounting his horse, Zhao Yong whispered to her, Queen, there's an abandoned temple ahead. It may be dilapidated, but it can shelter us from the wind and snow. Shall we head there? All right, let's go to the temple. The carriages proceeded directly into the temple grounds. Jiang Peihuan asked Yi Xiao to heat some water. She moistened a cloth with the warm water and wiped down Xiao Nanye, who was on the carriage. After completing these tasks, she took Xiao Nanye's pulse. The condition was as before, with the toxin spreading slowly. This was only because Jiang Peihuan had sealed his acupoints with golden needles, otherwise, Xiao Nanye would have succumbed to the poison long ago. My queen, please have some food. The only thing she could do now was to take care of Jiang Peihuan and ensure she didn't fall ill. You eat too, Jiang Peihuan softly said as she took the rations. Rong Mo also descended from his carriage. Everyone sat around the fire. Initially, Jiang Peihuan was worried that Rong Mo, who appeared pampered, wouldn't be used to the dry rations. Yet, he seemed indifferent to it. Do you think I, a pampered young master, can't endure a little hardship? Rong Mo's voice reached her ears. She didn't deny it but just nodded. Seeing her response, Rong Mo chuckled, if a sheltered lady like you can endure, why can't a grown man like me? She didn't respond. Zhao Yong, sitting opposite them, listened to their conversation silently. But suddenly, his expression changed, as did Jiang Peihuan's and Rong Mo's someone's coming. As Zhao Yong's words rang out, the temple doors were violently thrust open. Dozens of men in black appeared. Protect the queen. Upon seeing this, Yi Xiao shouted and immediately stood in front of Jiang Peihuan. Queen, get on the carriage first. Zhao Yong commanded coldly at that moment. Jiang Peihuan, eyes filled with a fierce glint, looked at the men in black. Yet, she said nothing and heeded Zhao Yong's words, boarding the carriage. She originally wanted to call Rong Mo to join her on the carriage, but she noticed he had already unsheathed a flexible sword from his waist with great proficiency. At a glance, he was clearly a trained martial artist. Seeing this, a touch of surprise flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She now understood why Rong Mo could travel to the western regions. Yi Xiao guarded Jiang Peihuan's carriage, while Zhao Yong, Rong Mo, and their men charged forward. The men in black were masters in their own right. However, the ones accompanying Zhao Yong and Rong Mo were also top-notch. For a while, both sides clashed fiercely without either gaining an upper hand. Suddenly, a masked man in black darted towards the carriage. His speed was astonishingly fast, even Zhao Yong and Rong Mo couldn't intercept him in time. Queen, be careful. Upon seeing this, Yi Xiao urgently called out. Inside the carriage, Jiang Peihuan had already drawn a black whip from her waist. But before she could swing it, a white figure swiftly lunged at the man in black. A sharp wolf's howl echoed throughout the temple. Chapter 271. Ambush on the road. Xiao Bai burst out from the carriage and directly pounced on the man in black. Seeing the sudden appearance of Xiao Bai, the man in black's eyes were full of shock. However, he reacted quickly. When he saw Xiao Bai pounce, he immediately drew his long sword, directly aiming for Xiao Bai's heart. Jiang Peihuan, who was on the carriage, saw this scene and quickly shouted, Xiao Bai, dodge. Xiao Bai, who was almost grown up, was fast. Seeing the man in black draw his sword, Xiao Bai jumped aside, not only dodging but also biting the man's arm. When bitten by Xiao Bai, the man in black grunted, but his sword directly targeted Xiao Bai again. Jiang Peihuan, from the carriage, swung her long whip. The whip wrapped around the man in black's arm. With his arm entangled by Jiang Peihuan's whip, the man's eyes showed a hint of gloom. With a strong pull, he dragged Jiang Peihuan off the carriage. At this moment, he raised the sword in his hand again. Xiao Bai, come back. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Xiao Bai rushed to her side. The man in black glanced at the wound on his arm, his expression growing worse. Turning to Jiang Peihuan, he coldly said, move aside if you don't want to die. Who sent you? The great Empress Dowager? Jiang Peihuan stood in front of the carriage, her eyes coldly fixed on the man in black. After hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, The man showed a hint of surprise but soon regained composure. He didn't speak further but aimed his sword at Jiang Peihuan. While engaging with the man in black, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with shock. This man's an expert in martial arts, and I'm no match for him. Yet, she showed no sign of backing down. Fortunately, Xiao Bai was always by her side, assisting even though it couldn't stop the man. I wanted to spare you, but if you seek death, I'll oblige, the man said, approaching Jiang Peihuan on the ground. Just then, a cold wind blew, and Zhao Yong appeared. He stood in front of Jiang Peihuan and said, Queen, you go first. I'll handle this. Jiang Peihuan hesitated, but Zhao Yong insisted, go. As he spoke, Zhao Yong charged at the man in black. Both were stunned upon clashing. Their eyes met, and Zhao Yong was shocked. Their eyes met, and Zhao Yong was shocked. My queen, let's go. At that moment, Rong Mo and Yi Xiao came to Jiang Peihuan's side. Yi Xiao pushed her onto the carriage, and they rushed out of the temple, with Xiao Bai jumping on too. Seeing the departing carriage, the man in black ordered, chase them. Stop them. At Zhao Yong's command, his men blocked the attackers. Only when Jiang Peihuan's carriage vanished into the darkness did Zhao Yong turn to the man in black. Father? Hearing Zhao Yong, the man's expression shifted, but he coldly responded, you've mistaken. Without saying more, Zhao Yong, holding his sword, stood at the temple entrance. Whatever the reason, I can't let you pursue. One owe this to the queen. Seeing Zhao Yong's stance, the man in black smirked, even if you stop me, can you stop the others? Hearing this, Zhao Yong looked grim. Without further words, he readied his sword again. An hour later, many of the black-clothed men had fallen, and Zhao Yong's side also suffered significant losses. Looking at the man in black, Zhao Yong said to his men, let's go. The man in black instinctively wanted to give chase but was stopped by another group appearing from behind. Don't chase them. Master, what about the palace? I'll handle the great Empress Dowager, the man in black man said. As he removed his mask, it revealed the face of King Huainan. Inside the carriage, Jiang Peihuan sat silently, her expression cold and indifferent. Suddenly, the horse neighed loudly. Then, the carriage came to an abrupt halt. As Jiang Peihuan lifted the curtain, she saw black-clothed men blocking their path. They were not from the same group as before, but she deduced that their intentions were the same. Upon seeing these men, Rong Mo drew his long sword. Yi Xiao also quickly prepared to defend. Standing in the carriage, Jiang Peihuan surveyed the scene. After a careful observation, she realized that the lead man in black was intently watching her. Their eyes met, and a surge of animosity welled up within Jiang Peihuan. To her astonishment, it was Xiao Juanhao. Seeing her reaction, Xiao Juanhao lunged towards her, his long sword aimed straight for her heart. Xiao Bai, protect Xiao Nanye. As Xiao Bai prepared to leap into action, it heard Jiang Peihuan's command. It let out a howl, indicating its understanding. Facing the attacking Xiao Juanhao, Jiang Peihuan drew her sword. She had anticipated this for a long time. In her previous life, it was only towards the end that Jiang Peihuan discovered Xiao Junhao's martial arts skills, which were impressive. So, in this reincarnated life, she had trained even harder. This was why, even when clashing with Xiao Juanhao now, she was holding her own. Seeing her impressive skills, Xiao Junhao's eyes widened in shock. While fighting, Jiang Peihuan's moves were deadly. Indeed, she wanted to kill Xiao Juanhao directly. You want to kill me that badly? Xiao Juanhao blocked her sword, gripping her wrist tightly. With a twist, he pulled her close to him. He looked down at her, his voice cold. Without responding, Jiang Peihuan raised her leg and aimed a kick at his face. Seeing her movement, Xiao Juanhao instinctively stepped back. The man looked down at the person in front of him and said coldly. Hearing the voice in her ear, Jiang Peihuan did not speak. Instead, she raised her leg and kicked back hard, straight at Xiao Junhao's face. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's actions, Xiao Juanhao subconsciously took 2 steps back. Jiang Peihuan swiftly turned away from him, drawing her whip. Chapter 272. Arriving at the western regions from the brow bone to the corner of the mouth, a red and swollen blood mark clearly appeared on Xiao Junhao's face. Xiao Junhao reached out and touched his face, feeling a sharp pain on his cheek. He turned to look at Jiang Peihuan with anger and complexity in his eyes. But Jiang Peihuan, without any hesitation, flicked her wrist and the whip in her hand lashed out at Xiao Junhao again. However, this time, Xiao Junhao dodged quickly. Throughout the ensuing confrontation, Xiao Junhao showed no mercy, leaving a sword wound on Jiang Peihuan. But he himself wasn't faring any better. His injuries were even more severe than Jiang Peihuan's. At that moment, Rong Mo returned to Jiang Peihuan's side. Upon seeing Xiao Junhao, a glint appeared in Yong Mo's eyes. But soon, he acted as if he didn't recognize Xiao Junhao and attacked him without holding back. When fighting alone, Xiao Junhao could manage, but when Rong Mo and Jiang Peihuan teamed up, he was no match. When Xiao Junhao was knocked to the ground, Jiang Peihuan's sword thrust forward, only to be stopped by Rong Mo. Facing Jiang Peihuan's puzzled look, Rong Mo whispered, "Killing him will only bring trouble upon yourself." Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with fury, but hearing Rong Mo's words, she sheathed her sword. She didn't care about the consequences for herself, but she couldn't jeopardize the Jiang family. "Your Highness, if the Emperor learns that you attacked your own uncle, he probably won't spare you either. So, I advise you to behave yourself." With that, Rong Mo boarded the carriage. Due to the delay, daybreak had come, but the group didn't plan to rest and headed directly towards the western regions. By dusk, Zhao Yong caught up with Jiang Peihuan. Seeing him unharmed, Jiang Peihuan sighed with relief. "Queen Cheng, don't you want to inquire about the men in black?" Seeing that Jiang Peihuan was silent, Zhao Yong could not help but look at her. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan looked at Zhao Yong and after a pause, she said, "There's no need to say more, Prince, I'm already aware." The moment she saw King Huainan, Jiang Peihuan recognized him. That's why she had directly asked if he was sent by the great Empress Dowager. "Why then?" Facing Zhao Yong's puzzled eyes, Jiang Peihuan whispered, "For me, the most important thing now is to find the cure for Xiao Nanya. Other matters can wait until they return." After that, Jiang Peihuan continued north. The further they traveled, the colder it became. But, fortunately, they didn't encounter any more trouble. On the 7th day, Jiang Peihuan finally saw the gates to the western regions. At this time, Xiao Nanya's complexion had turned purple. Jiang Peihuan had to administer acupuncture to him daily, but the golden needles could no longer suppress the poison in his body. In the coming days, she must find the soul-returning glass. "My queen, can we just enter the city like this? They might not let us through." Looking at the city gate, Yi Xiao whispered. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to reply, she heard Rong Mo's voice, "Follow me in." With that, Rong Mo got off the carriage and mounted a horse. Jiang Peihuan was puzzled but didn't question him. Instead, she instructed Yi Xiao to follow behind Rong Mo, along with Zhao Yong. Originally, when they arrived in the western regions, Jiang Peihuan intended to send Zhao Yong back, having agreed that he would only accompany her to the western regions. However, Zhao Yong insisted on returning with Jiang Peihuan. Seeing his persistence, Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything more. Unknown to her, Rong Mo took out a token from his possession. Upon seeing the token, the gatekeeping soldiers immediately let them pass. As they entered the city, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but lift the curtain of the carriage to look out. What she saw left her astonished. She had always assumed that the northern regions would be economically backward. But now, the streets she saw were bustling and prosperous. At that moment, Rong Mo also climbed into the carriage. Seeing the surprise in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, he remarked, "The new ruler of the western regions is a capable person. The western regions have undergone significant changes in the past 5 years. You've met the new ruler of the western regions?" Jiang Peihuan asked. At her question, Rong Mo's eyes flickered, but he remained silent. They hadn't traveled for long when an unfamiliar voice speaking Mandarin called out, "Young Master Rong, the ruler of western regions invites you to the palace." Hearing this, Curiosity filled Jiang Peihuan's eyes as she turned to look at Rong Mo lifting the curtain of the carriage. Rong Mo faced a group of armored men. The leader, a tall man, looked at Rong Mo with great respect. That man also noticed Jiang Peihuan inside the carriage. After a moment's thought, he continued, "The ruler of the Western region also said that those traveling with young Master Rong are also welcome in the palace." Rong Mo looked at Jiang Peihuan, "If you don't want to go, let's go. After all, the soul returning glass is in the palace," she replied. Jiang Peihuan's primary reason for coming to the Western regions was to obtain the soul returning grass. Even without the day's events, she would still find a way into the palace. They proceeded directly to the palace of the Western regions. Jiang Peihuan, Zhao Yong, and the others were settled in a palace hall while Rong Mo was taken separately. After settling Xiao Nanye, Jiang Peihuan turned to Yi Xiao and asked, "Yi Xiao, do you know of any connection between Rong Mo and the Western regions?" Thinking that Yi Xiao had been by Xiao Nanye's side before, Jiang Peihuan felt it right to inquire. However, Yi Xiao shook her head in response, "I've never heard of any relationship between young Master Rong and the Western regions. But if there is a connection," Yi Xiao added, "it would be that young Master Rong once lived in the Western regions for some time." Confused, Jiang Peihuan pondered on this revelation. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. There was a knock on the door. Yi Xiao answered, and the visitor was the military officer they had seen earlier in the streets. From Rong Mo, Jiang Peihuan learned that this man was called Xin Yan, the chief guard of the king of the Western regions. "Queen Cheng, the ruler of Western region invites you over," Xin Yan said softly after bowing to Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan nodded and followed him. In the Western region's palace, she wasn't too concerned about Xiao Nanye's safety. Still, she left Yi Xiao behind for assurance. With Zhao Yong also close by, she felt at ease. However, as she followed Xin Yan around a corner, she saw Zhao Yong approaching. Zhao Yong didn't look at Jiang Peihuan but spoke directly to Xin Yan, "One have to guard the queen, so I must go with her." "All right, Prince, come along," Xin Yan agreed. Jiang Peihuan had expected Xin Yan to refuse, but to her surprise, he simply nodded in agreement after hearing Zhao Yong's words. Chapter 273. Give me a child. When Jiang Peihuan and Zhao Yong entered the palace of the Western region, they overheard an argument inside. "It's none of your business, and don't you dare threaten me." The voice belonged to Rong Mo. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes widened in surprise. Although her encounters with Rong Mo had been infrequent, she could tell that he was an incredibly cold person. The fact that someone managed to provoke him like this made her curious. "Your Majesty, we have guests," announced another voice. "Let them in." Surprisingly, this reply was a soft, enchanting feminine voice. Both Jiang Peihuan and Zhao Yong were taken aback. The ruler of the Western region was not only a woman but also an extremely beautiful one. "I heard you've come to the Western region for the soul returning grass?" The Western region's queen spoke directly as soon as she saw Jiang Peihuan. At first glance, Jiang Peihuan noticed the queen's fair skin, bright eyes, and naturally wavy hair. She was so stunning, she resembled a fairy. Hearing the queen's words, Jiang Peihuan bowed slightly and replied softly, "Yes, I've come to the Western region for the soul returning grass." "It's simple," the queen responded promptly. "As long as you can convince him to stay, I'll give you the grass." She pointed directly at Rong Mo as she spoke. Jiang Peihuan looked towards Rong Mo, her eyes filled with surprise. However, Rong Mo, upon hearing the queen's words, became visibly angry. "Yaroji," he said, his voice tinged with anger, "I've told you before. I will not stay in the Western region, and one will not marry you." Yaroji, the Western region's queen, remained unfazed. "You also said you'd never return to the Western region, yet here you are," she remarked casually. "Nothing is impossible when it comes to you. Even if it seems impossible, I'll make it possible." "Queen Cheng," the queen continued, "I can give you the soul returning grass, but you must persuade Rongmo to stay. Your Majesty, may first ask why you want young Master Rong to stay? Jiang Peihuan inquired. To marry him, of course. Jiang Peihuan was taken aback, even though she had somewhat anticipated this answer. Yaroji's directness was somewhat disarming. Jiang Peihuan appreciate forthright people like the Queen. When she heard Yaroji's words, she said softly, Your Majesty, but feelings can't be forced. Why not? Yaroji asked with a smile. Jiang Peihuan was stunned. If it wasn't for the sincere look in Yaroji's eyes, she might have mistaken it for mockery. If Rongmo stays and marries me, doesn't he become mine? Yaroji continued, challenging Jiang Peihuan's beliefs. Jiang Peihuan was momentarily lost for words. Even as an observer, she could understand Rongmo's frustration. Even Zhao Yong, who had remained silent, showed a hint of sympathy for Rongmo upon hearing Yaroji's words. Hoping to steer the conversation back on track, Jiang Peihuan asked, Your Majesty, can we exchange the soul-returning grass for something else? My husband's life is at stake. But I have everything I want, except for Rongmo, Yaroji replied. Feeling exasperated, Jiang Peihuan turned to Rongmo, Young Master Rong, perhaps you could, but she couldn't finish her sentence, catching the cold look in Rongmo's eyes. Yet, it was clear Rongmo had discerned her meaning from her tone. Coldly, Rongmo glanced at Jiang Peihuan and then looked at Yaroji, saying, As long as you are willing to give me the soul-returning grass, aside from staying and marrying you, I can agree to any other conditions you put forth. Really? Let me think. Hearing Rongmo's words, Yaroji was lost in thought. However, Jiang Peihuan grew somewhat anxious. Xiao Nanye's current condition didn't leave them much time to wait for Yaroji's decision. But my friend is running out of time. So, you need to give me an answer quickly. What if I want you to give me a child? What did you say? Before Rongmo could finish speaking, Yaroji looked at him and asked. Hearing this, Rongmo was immediately stunned, his face full of astonishment. Jiang Peihuan also turned to look at Yaroji. If she wasn't certain there was nothing wrong with her hearing, she would have doubted if she heard correctly. Yet, Yaroji's next words confirmed she hadn't misunderstood. I said, I want you to give me a child. If you're unwilling to stay or marry me, then at least grant me a child. If you promise this, one will give you the soul-returning grass. I, Rongmo, one have already compromised. You were the one who said that aside from staying and marrying, any other condition would be accepted. Are you going back on your word now? If that's the case, one absolutely won't give you the soul-returning grass. Yaroji didn't even wait for Rongmo to finish and directly cut him off. The entire hall fell silent after her words. After what felt like an eternity, Jiang Peihuan heard Rongmo say, All right, I promise. So, when will you give me a child? Rongmo, Jiang Peihuan, Zhao Yong. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan received a wooden box from Xinyan. Carefully opening the box, she saw a small, vibrant green grass inside. The box seemed to have some kind of preservation effect. The grass looked as if it had just been freshly plucked. Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of joy as she looked at the small plant. Because this was the soul-returning grass. Yi Xiao, go prepare the other herbs. Tonight, I will cure Xiao Nanye. Yes, my queen. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Yi Xiao quickly left the inner chamber. Knock, knock. Just as Yi Xiao left, there was a knock on the door. It was Xinyan. Seeing him, Jiang Peihuan asked softly, Master Sai, what brings you here? Queen Cheng, the queen wishes to see you. Now. Seeing Xinyan nod, Jiang Peihuan softly replied, All right, I'll head over. Xinyan led Jiang Peihuan to Yaroji's palace. As soon as they entered, Jiang Peihuan saw clothes scattered all over the bed, with Yaroji dressed in only a single garment. You've arrived. Chapter 274, Curing the Poison. Upon seeing Jiang Peihuan, A hint of a smile appeared in Yaroji's eyes. Even though Jiang Peihuan hadn't known Yaroji for long, her impression of her was excellent. This was mainly because Yaroji's demeanor was pure and genuine, even if she sometimes said things that left Jiang Peihuan unsure of how to respond. As Jiang Peihuan approached Yaroji and was about to bow, Yaroji quickly grabbed her hand. "Come help me look at this." While speaking, Yaroji pointed to the clothes on the bed. "Queen Cheng, tell me, how do women from the Qi Kingdom dress on their wedding night? Or tell me, how do the men in Qi Kingdom prefer their women to dress?" Hearing Yaroji's words, Jiang Peihuan looked at the clothes on the bed, which were mainly from the western regions. After pondering for a moment, Jiang Peihuan asked, "Do you intend to wear this for young Master Rong to see?" After pondering for a moment, Jiang Peihuan asked, "Does your Majesty want to wear it for young Master Rong to see?" "Yes, Queen Cheng. Do you know what kind of attire Rong Mo prefers on women?" "I'm really not sure." Jiang Peihuan hadn't had much interaction with Rong Mo, so she genuinely didn't know his preferences. But seeing Yaroji's disappointed look, she whispered, "Young Master Rong comes from a scholarly family. Women from Qi Kingdom dress modestly. Your Majesty might, perhaps try on this white dress." Saying this, Jiang Peihuan picked up a long white skirt from the bed. Hearing her suggestion, Yaroji immediately tried on the white dress. "Queen Cheng, do one look good in this?" Yaroji looked radiant in the white dress, which cascaded in layers. The person Jiang Peihuan had seen wearing the most white was Lin Mengyao. At first, she thought Lin Mengyao looked pretty in white, but Yaroji, draped in the same color, outshone her by miles. Looking into Yaroji's eyes, Jiang Peihuan nodded seriously, "Your Majesty looks stunning. Then I'll wear it for Rong Mo tonight." Seeing the joy in Yaroji's eyes and thinking of Rong Mo's attitude towards her, Jiang Peihuan wanted to say something. But recalling Yaroji's words and actions, she ultimately remained silent. After a brief chat with Yaroji, Jiang Peihuan left. She needed to prepare an antidote for Xiao Nanye, whose condition was deteriorating. Just as Jiang Peihuan arrived at her residence, she saw Rong Mo waiting at the door, seemingly for her. "Young Master Rong, were you waiting for me?" "Yes." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Rong Mo nodded, meeting her gaze, and said directly, "Do you have a non-harmful sleeping drug?" Jiang Peihuan's eyes flashed momentarily. She asked assertively, "You want to use it on the queen?" Rong Mo nodded, confirming her suspicion. "If you do this, she will be heartbroken." "I promised her a child to save King Cheng. But I can't give her one. It's not good for her." Jiang Peihuan didn't know the full story between Rong Mo and Yaroji, so she refrained from judging. However, while handing over the sleeping drug, she informed him of Yaroji's earlier request for help in choosing clothes. Rong Mo's eyes showed mixed emotions upon hearing this, but he remained silent. After Rong Mo left, Jiang Peihuan entered her room. "My queen, the medicines you requested are all prepared." The table was filled with various herbs. Jiang Peihuan approached the bed and took Xiao Nanye's pulse. The poison was nearing his heart. She released his hand, checked the herbs, and then instructed Yi Xiao, "Prepare a bath and boil some water." "Yes." A moment later, a bucket filled with a dark medicinal bath appeared in the room. The entire room was filled with a pungent odor, and steam rose from the bath. Jiang Peihuan removed all the clothes from Xiao Nanye and then helped him into the bath. As soon as Xiao Nanye sat down, Jiang Peihuan saw his lips turn blue-purple. The heat accelerated the spread of the poison within Xiao Nanye, but because Jiang Peihuan sealed his meridians, the toxins surged uncontrollably within him. "My queen, Prince Huainan has arrived. Let him in." Zhao Yong entered the room and immediately saw Xiao Nanye in the bath. After bowing slightly to Jiang Peihuan, he whispered, "Queen Cheng, is there anything I can assist with?" "I do have a request for Prince Huainan." Meeting Zhao Yong's gaze, Jiang Peihuan spoke directly, "For the next hour, I need to administer acupuncture to the King Cheng. Please guard the door for me and do not let anyone enter, no matter who it is." "Understood." After hearing Jiang Peihuan's request, Zhao Yong nodded seriously. He then moved to stand guard outside the door. Jiang Peihuan continued to watch Xiao Nanya intently. When she saw his complexion turning bluish-purple, she told Yi Xiao, "Prepare the golden needles." At her command, Yi Xiao spread out a cloth, revealing a row of golden needles. Jiang Peihuan quickly picked them up and swiftly began inserting them into Xiao Nanya's back. Before long, Xiao Nanya's back was filled with these golden needles. After an hour, the areas around the inserted needles began oozing dark blood. "Bring me the soul-returning grass." Taking the soul-returning grass from Yi Xiao's hand, Jiang Peihuan squeezed out its juice and fed it to Xiao Nanya. After he swallowed it, his complexion improved slightly. However, this was the most critical moment. Jiang Peihuan had to watch over Xiao Nanya to prevent the poison from spreading further. If it did, all their efforts would be in vain. Xiao Nanya was covered in sweat, his eyes tightly shut. As Jiang Peihuan kept her focus on Xiao Nanya, sounds of fighting reached her ears. Hearing this, her brow furrowed. Yi Xiao glanced at Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya, quickly saying, "My queen, I'll check it out." Without waiting for a response, Yi Xiao rushed out. The sounds of battle intensified. Looking at the needles on Xiao Nanya's back, a sense of urgency filled Jiang Peihuan's eyes. "My queen." The door was thrown open, and Yi Xiao returned, a worried expression on his face. "My queen, there are troops attacking the palace." "Attacking the palace? Who is it?" Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Peihuan was filled with concern. Young Master Rong said it's the Northern Border Army. Why would the Northern Border Army suddenly attack the Western Region Palace? Hearing this, Yi Xiao shook his head. At that moment, there was an urgent knock on the door. "You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.